you coming, but you know, talking to Frank and all that. This is a Stand Up for Idaho event. We do this every week. Every Wednesday we meet here at 6:30. So this is just one of the things that we do, and we have been doing for a little over a year now, and stuff. And so we'll get on. Why are we here tonight? We need to come together as a society, and our world as we know it today will cease to exist. I firmly believe that. There's a lot of turmoil going on in the world, and we need to come together. If we don't, our children and our grandchildren are going to be the ones suffering. I've got a lot of gray hair. We're doing this for our children. That's what's very important. But to fix things and whatnot, what we need to do is we need to be a civil society. And we need to be able to seek to understand and determine what is true. And true, yeah, I understand true is in the eye of the beholder and whatnot, but facts end up being facts, and you have to learn certain things. And in seeking to understand, you have to hear all sides of the story. Many times throughout my life, I've believed one thing, a certain way. But you know what I find out? Is that somebody or somehow or somewhere, a part of the story was missing. I wasn't told or whatever, or it was withheld from me. But when I find out the rest of the story, and you've heard that before, the rest of the story, you know what? A lot of times my mindset will change. And so for that, it's important for us to all hear all sides of the story and make up our own mind of what is true. And that's what Stand Up for Idaho is all about. Stand Up for Idaho has, over the past years, had a lot of politicians here and a lot of things happening. But that's the one thing we've always held them the standard to is doing what we can to make sure that we bring out the information for the people. Let you decide what makes sense to you, and you have the liberty to lead your own life. Now, why are we here tonight? And I do appreciate everybody, and I appreciate Frank for coming. This last July, full disclosure, I'm a Republican. I actually ran for state senate, Idaho State Senate, my first year. I've only been involved in politics about a year and a half. And so this is a lot of new stuff to me, believe me. Anyway, I lost at the primary. That's okay. That happens. But I was also a delegate at the Republican convention, state convention. And, we were all there looking at what's going on and all that. And there's this email that comes across our phones, and we see this, and it's from Frank. And, it's Frank trying to set the record straight. And I'm looking at this and everything, and he's basically responding to accusations that people say he's this or that, and he's not a Republican, he's not conservative. I mean, and recognizing there's several sides to the story, Frank was trying to set the record straight. And so I was standing there with a bunch of fellow delegates there, and I said, well, maybe I'll ask Frank to come to a Stand Up for Idaho meeting. I got two types of responses. First, anyway, I have a big voice. Anyway, part of it is I had two responses that you could get from that when I made the comment that I'd ask Frank to come stand up for Idaho. Well, sure, you have the guts. You have the guts to try and get a hold of Frank and see if he'll come. The second comment was Frank won't come. Okay, well, here we are. Okay, and I just say that to be careful because of that. Okay, it's maybe that. Anyway, be careful what you say. You never underestimate what's going on. So tonight I'm going to have Frank. Frank has decided to come and set the record straight, and these two things. some of the rules for tonight. Can you hear me? Half of you say no, half of you say yes. So I'll speak last.
The mic isn't working.
Okay, I'm trying to do something. I was following the line. Anyway, recognizing that Frank has a lot on his plate. If he doesn't, I'd be surprised. You can't know everything that's going on. And so Frank and I, during the discussion, Frank said, I'd like that. I'll answer any question you throw at me. But I'd like to see it so I can research it, so I understand. And I said, okay. And so from that perspective, there will be no questions from the audience tonight. Okay? However, we've had over 100 questions. I asked the people to submit questions to us. And we had over 100 questions that were submitted, and I gave to Frank anonymously. And he says he will answer each and every one of them candidly and fully. Okay? He did say that I can keep him on track. Okay, and if I say, okay, Frank, you didn't really answer that question, could you clarify that? He said he would let me do that. Okay, so from that perspective, I get the privilege to ask the other questions, but nobody else. All right. Now, I have received a lot of flack for that. Typically, in a Stand Up for Idaho meeting, what we will do is I'll have a politician up here. And I'll say, okay, audience, be prepared to ask the hard questions, because that politician is up here to get your vote so that they can represent you. That's what it's all about. Well, I've been getting a lot of flack because I'm not holding Frank to the same standard as a politician. Well, for one thing, Frank is not a politician. Yes, he has influence. That's okay. You know, we all have influence on our politicians. Okay. He's not trying to sell us something, you know, like to have us vote on a bond or do anything like that. And so he's here as a private individual, basically on his own accord, wanting to talk to us. However, I do realize, and Frank and I've talked about this too, is that some people may have issue with. And so what we've agreed upon on this too is next week is a chance for rebuttals. And what that one will be is, and it's basically the same thing, is, you know, they can listen to what Frank said tonight, and they can prepare. Let me know if they want to do a rebuttal, and then they will have the stage next week. And we will live stream it. We will put it out just like everybody else. The thing about Stand Up for Idaho is we do strive to be fair and put the truth out there. Okay. So again, I thank everybody for coming. I'm going to introduce Frank here in just a second and turn it over to him. But I got a letter that I want to read to you. And like I say, a lot of the issue that Frank was facing was, is he a Republican? Is he a conservative? Does he believe in liberty? All of this type stuff. How many, just by a quick show of hands, how many people here know who James O'Keefe is? Of Project Veritas. Okay. Sent me a letter. I'll read it to you. Dear Mr. Toomer, Project Veritas is a nonprofit investigative journalism organization formed in 2011. We investigate and expose corruption, dishonesty, self-dealing, waste, fraud, and other misconduct in both public and private institutions to achieve a more ethical and transparent society. As a nonprofit organization, we are 100% dependent on private donors. Frank VanderSloot has been a major donor of ours and has provided a material portion of our annual budget. He has also increased his support through the years as we continue to deliver results and fight for our basic fundamental freedoms, especially the First Amendment, which is so critical to every American. We have gotten to know Frank over these many years, and he has stood strong behind our work as a nonpartisan journalist organization that has never wavered from his belief and has never wavered from his belief that every American has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We are proud to have Frank as a part of Project Veritas. Very truly yours, James O'Keefe. That's somebody else. That's one person's opinion of Frank. But obviously, if you know what James O'Keefe does, he lays a lot on the line for exposing truth. And so, with that, I would like to have everybody give Frank a big hand. I'm going to actually turn it over to Frank. He's going to have a presentation to do for a little while, and then we're going to get into answering the questions. And like I said, he has said that he's going to answer every one of them. He may have grouped a few of them together, which is okay, but there was over 100 questions that we gave to him. And so with that, please, everybody, give Frank a big hand.
Thank you, Doug. Is my mic on? All right. Thanks, Doug. And I was surprised to get an invitation, Doug. And I didn't know much about your organization, honestly. But hopefully, this will give your organization some exposure. And I've been really impressed. And as you were, people guessed whether I would respond. I was given warnings. People who didn't know you, people who misjudged who you were, and they didn't. My friends, people who are connected, they didn't think that I was going to be given, a fair reception or whatever. It's not been my experience. I've been just really, really impressed. I did attend one of your meetings earlier, and felt like this for people who want to get involved, especially that have conservative ideas and conservative thoughts and concerns about our country. I just would be a real advocate of this organization. And you guys put a lot of work in this. I mean, it's a weekly deal. It's a big, people don't have to. I think it's important where we are. Our nation is under attack. Last night didn't turn out as well as a lot of us hoped it would. And I haven't had a chance to watch the news today, but I'm not sure quite what the reading is, what went wrong, but people were forecasting a lot more advancements than the Republicans made. My point is this: our nation's under siege. We're in a long, drawn-out war against the evils of socialism, entitlement, wokeness, defunding the police, a weak military, corrupt government, abortion on demand, critical race theory, damaging regulatory practices by federal agencies that are way overreaching what their actual authorities are given to them by the Constitution. And we're under an overall attack on our democracy because of legitimately fraudulent voting practices. Those are the things that I believe are our enemy, not each other. We're not each other's enemies. It's those things we should be working to try to fight. And I want to point out this: even though we didn't win as much as we thought we were going to, those things we did win were by a slim majority. make an example out of you and demonstrate to the rest of the world what happens to anyone that dare disagree with us. Regardless of your Republican roots, regardless of your conservative roots, or your contribution to the conservative cause, we will call you a rhino, a liberal, or even a Democrat. We will lie about you. We will misconstrue facts about you. We will destroy your reputation, and we will destroy your career.
You have to hear all sides of the story. Many times throughout my life, I've believed one thing, a certain way. But you know what I find out? Is that somebody or somehow or somewhere, a part of the story was missing. I wasn't told or whatever, or it was withheld from me. But when I find out the rest of the story, and you've heard that before, the rest of the story, you know what? A lot of times
He points it out. And I'm walking this tightrope. Because I don't want to say they're bad people. I would agree with what they're trying to accomplish. I would agree with the policies they want implemented 90, 95, maybe 99% of the time. But the manner they're going about it is so destructive that I think their purposes are ill-served, and I think the party is. And I'm afraid that if we don't stop this within ourselves, if we don't stop it, that our party and will become so divided. We'll become so helpless. We should be fighting those other guys, the policies, not even the people. We should be fighting the people. We should be fighting for the things we believe in. And I'm afraid that if we keep going down this road of disparagement and ruining people's reputations, that the party will become smaller. We've been told, data, that over 3,000 members have left the Republican Party in Idaho in just the last few months. And there may be a story behind that. Why are they leaving? I don't know. We know that some of them are leaving because they feel that things have gotten too radical. They don't like some of the tactics that I'm talking about. I'm an advocate for leaders like Ronald Reagan, Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Thomas Paine, Benjamin Franklin, and those people who were careful, that they took a stand, man. But they were careful not to offend. They took a stand. Ronald Reagan, he said, if you agree with me 80% of the time, you are my friend. And that's how he treated people. That's not what's going on today. But I think we need to get back to that kind of leadership. I'm also an advocate of choosing leaders who have the propensity to tell the truth and who are not willing to lie under any circumstance. I think we make better decisions when we base decisions on truth. I was told recently, in fact, just a couple of days ago, that some of our founding fathers' favorite scripture was, "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." That's given by a pretty good authority on truth and freedom. I think it's a good roadmap for us. Knowing the truth. You want to be free? We say we want freedom. According to him, freedom starts with knowing the truth and speaking it. Without exaggeration, I think. Without twisting it to make ourselves look better. Remember the days when if the leaders of our nation were exposed for lying, they'd be automatically disqualified. Remember those days? Remember the days of Richard Nixon? You remember what happened to him? You remember back, he got caught in a lie. Probably not nearly as big a lies as what's being told by leaders today. From both parties, by the way. I think both parties are guilty here. But you remember what the culture was like back then? He got caught in a cover-up, and he got caught in a lie surrounding Watergate. And both parties demanded that he resign. My, how things have changed. My, how things have changed. We're now, both parties in the last decade have elected people, put in charge of the very highest offices, people that we know don't tell the truth. We don't expect them to tell the truth. And I think it's dangerous. These people become the role model of our children. We put them in office. They're the leaders of our nation. Our children will want to become like they are. And unfortunately, maybe we want to become like they are also. So I'm an advocate that we change that. We've got to change it individually and collectively. We need to call things out when they aren't truthful. When you see somebody saying something that's unfair, we need to call it out. I'm going to try to be truthful tonight. I've been under attack pretty mercilessly. They're going to rebut my statements next week. If I misspeak here, I hope I'm man enough to own anything that I say here that isn't exactly accurate. And I invite them to point those things out. I believe we should reinstate the qualifications of our leaders of being honest and honorable. If we're faced with two choices, and we've had this happen recently, often, you got a liberal versus a conservative. I mean, you're faced, the primary is where the answer is. If we elect honest people in the primaries, then we won't have to make this choice in the general election. This guy, we know he's not honest, but he's the only one that supports the policies I believe in, so I got to go with make that choice. We should make better choices with who we put up in our primary elections. And when we have a choice between two conservatives, an honest one, or one we know that fudges the truth a little bit, I think we should take the honest one almost all the time. We should reinstitute that. Honesty being a part of the qualifications to lead this country and to lead our community. Now, you'll note I'm not a candidate for office, nor have I ever been, nor will I ever be. This local group in Idaho Falls, my hometown, have attacked me with flyers, letter to the editor, in the media. I mean, they've taken hours and hours and hours to attack me. Why would they do that? There's a reason, but why would they lob personal attacks on me? The question is not only why, but who are they? So I've written a statement. I'm going to read this statement because I've worded it really carefully, but I'm going to tell you who I believe this group is. So who are they? The they is a small group of independent thinkers who have formed a secret alliance with each other to take control of the Republican Party here in Idaho, to redefine its principles, and to destroy the reputation of anyone who does not agree with them on every single issue 100% of the time. They call themselves conservatives. And indeed, many of their objectives and many of their proposed policies are absolutely conservative solutions. I would agree with their objectives and their proposed policies probably 90 to 95% of the time. However, some of their positions are so extreme, so rigid, so unorthodox. Most Republicans and most true conservatives would consider them radical in nature. I think their claim to be conservative is misplaced. Most conservatives that I know and respect are those that have a propensity to tell the truth, to try to unify us, and to lead us to a better place through a give and take dialogue, rather than to try to force us into compliance into a rigid, radical ideology. Now I'll say again, I'm suggesting I'm calling it a secret alliance. It's a secret alliance. They got a lot of money. They do not disclose where that money comes from. They're well organized. They have an agreement. I was introduced to this. I didn't know about them until we proposed a bill at the legislature called the Idaho Patient Act. And one of the men in the legislature took me aside and said, Frank, there are people here that are so angry with you. They're angry with you because you attacked the income stream, this bill is going to attack the income stream of one of the members of the club. I didn't know what that meant. I later learned what that meant. And indeed, I learned. We're going to talk about it in some detail so you understand what's going on behind the scenes, and you can make your own. When you see people attacked, you can ask yourself, why is that person being attacked? Now, I'm going to name some people. I'm going to name some names. I'm going to say, I'm going to call them out for what they're doing. But I'm going to say I don't think these are bad people. I think most of them, if not all of them, really good people. Done some good stuff for the community. Support youth, give scholarships. Give scholarships. So I'm going to call out one person, Brian Smith. And he specifically has supported youth groups. I don't know all the good stuff he's done. I know he's done a lot of good stuff. A lot of it behind the scenes, giving kids scholarships. I'm sure he sees himself as a good man. But some of the things that are going on here are dead wrong. First, recently, within the last year, I had a government relations, director of Melaleuca government relations. She represented me in Melaleuca in helping getting the Patient Act passed. We're going to talk about that in detail. The first thing they did, they attacked her. I'm going to quote, several people told me personally that the person who forwarded this rumor is Brian Smith. And Brian, I'm not saying I absolutely know you were guilty. I don't see Brian here tonight. I thought he might be. I hope to look him in the eye. I hope he's watching. Brian, I'll just say to you, you did what they said you did, but I'm just going to say, what they did to Katie was wrong. They attacked her. They said she was a lesbian. And yes, I've been told by several sources that this came from Brian Smith. They said she was a lesbian and she'd had an affair. She had gone through a divorce. She'd not had an affair. And I want to stand up for her. It's wrong to do this to a person. Over and over and over, this was said in this community. Maybe you heard it. If you know her, if you know her personally, you know that's not the case. If you don't know her, you might believe that stuff. Why did they attack her with those slurs? Because she represented me. That's why. Because she represented me. They want to discredit any message that I might have. It's wrong. And those who heard him say that should have stopped him from saying it. Doyle Beck, Mark Fuller, you're very close to this man. If you hear anybody, if you hear him saying that stuff, you should stop him. The attacks they made on me were not as personal. They weren't as vicious. About me personally, they, in writing, said I'm a rhino, a liberal, Democrat. Again, so I'm going to throw some things on the slide. I want to, I get emotional about the thing that they did to Katie. She didn't deserve that, just because she represents me. So I got a clicker here. So, Doug, you mentioned that I sent out an email while the convention was going on. I did, because somebody sent me a copy of this flyer that was being posted on all the cars in the parking lot. I wasn't there. I'm not running for office. Don't let Democrat donors like Frank VanderSloot control the Republican Party. Frank's Democrat donations. That was, okay, that was on the flyers. That's why I wrote the email to say, whoa, 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 whoa. Stop it. I didn't even say stop it. I just sent an email to set the record straight. Doyle Beck, July 8th, this was not too long ago. posted a whole, this was, I think, a letter to the editor, I think, or maybe this was to the Freedom Foundation folks. I'm not sure. Here's a statement, though, from Doyle. VanderSloot has no loyalty to the state Republican Party, to its conservative values, as evidenced by his contribution to Democrat candidates' causes and leftist Republicans. Brian Smith, statement from Brian Smith. This was in the Freedom Foundation publication. Obama donor. Oh, wait. He wouldn't say unless there was some truth to it, right? Wait. This is a good one. Obama donor, Frank VanderSloot, not what he pretends to be. By Brian Smith. In 2008, Frank L. VanderSloot contributed to the presidential campaign of Barack Hussein Obama. Frank, the self-described avid conservative, was the inventor and cheerleader of the liberal, underline that word, the liberal Idaho Patient Act. Whoops, I went too fast. The Idaho Freedom Foundation is just too conservative for someone like Frank, who supports Democrats and is not what he pretends to be. Okay. All right. Okay, well, that's just some of the stuff they wrote. Why would they put hours and hours of doing this? Why would this alliance attack me like that? Because I did two things. I exposed some activities they were involved in. So they wanted to silence me on those things. I didn't like to expose it, didn't want to be involved in it, but I was in a position to expose it. And I don't know that I personally did. I supported exposing it and facilitated it. And I endorsed a candidate that they didn't endorse, Tom Luna. I endorsed Tom Luna as the party chair. I don't think I even endorsed him this time. I had endorsed him previously, and they wanted to silence me on that. And so I became the topic. I wasn't even there. I wasn't running for office. It was all become about, I wasn't saying nothing. This was like, they just were afraid I was going to speak up, and they wanted to take away any voice that I might have in case I did have an opinion. They wanted to get it out of the way right away. So they wrote all this stuff. Evidently, they thought I was going to take a stand. Why would I even bring this up? Because Doug asked me to come speak to this group. That's why. Doug asked me to come talk. And so to set the record straight, so I'm going to set the record straight. But I think there's a bigger purpose. What they did to Katie and what they tried to do others. If it was just about me, it wouldn't be worth me coming here. I've got a reputation. I mean, there's enough stuff out there for me. Somebody can look up, see what I've done, where I've been. But it's not about that. They do it to other people all the time. And those people don't have the chance to stand up and set the record straight. And if they did show up here to set the record straight, probably nobody's going to show up to listen. They don't have a chance. They're helpless in there. And I think when you attack people's reputation and you attack their good name and you say things that are not true and you try to take away their voice, I think we do them damage. I'm an advocate for truth. So we're going to get down to some of that. So first, let me establish for you my conservative roots. I grew up in northern Idaho, a little place called Kokolala. How many have been to Kokolala? Wow, 8 of you. It's right between Westman and Kerrywood. Okay, I'll try a bit. Between Coeur d'Alene and Sandpoint. Okay, now we're talking. It's up in the woods, beautiful area. Those who've been up there, they could, little ranch, small ranch, 80 acres. My father worked on the railroad. He worked Monday through Friday on the railroad. He left, he was gone Monday through Friday. We didn't see Dad till weekends. That meant this little ranch, 80 acres, bunch of cows, some horses, chickens, pigs, goats, and whatever. And we needed that to survive. That was the kid's responsibility. And when I was 12, my older brother left home, and at 12, the ranch became my responsibility. My job was, there's a lot to do. My mother cooked on a wood stove. We heated the house with wood, so you had chopped wood every day for the wood stove. Milked the cow night and morning, never missed from the time I was 12 to the time I was 18. I had to get that all done before the bus came at 7:45 in the morning. Chop the ice out of the water trough, get the horses fed, get the chickens fed, all that stuff. It was an hour ride to Sandpoint. We didn't have telephone. We didn't have TV. We didn't have time for that anyway. So, but we had there weren't any kids my age. The closest kids my age were like 3 miles away. So we didn't have much of a social life. Come home, do the chores, go to bed, get up in the morning, do the chores. That's kind of how it was. My brother and I slept in the attic. I forget, maybe when I was 6 years old, my dad said, okay, 4 daughters. They had 2 sons and 2 boys and 2 girls. So we had to separate the boys and girls. You guys getting old enough, we'll move you boys upstairs. He took a chainsaw, cut a hole in the roof of his bedroom, put a ladder in it, and said, you boys move up there. There wasn't a heat up there. For the first winter, there wasn't insulation up there. It was we took dogs to bed to keep us warm. So I brought my dad and my mom. Little barn. That's where that's the home I grew up in. That's my father and my niece entering the house. That's the front door. Okay, just to document, it doesn't show me milking the cow, but I milked. This was my favorite cow. This was Lucy. We used her for transportation. We used her for everything. We're headed to a swimming hole right there, or coming back. I mean, let's see. We're coming back. It looks like we're either going or coming back. But anyway, so anyway, that was my childhood. I saved money for college. My dad said, "Son, you got to go to college." He had a 3rd grade education. His income was $300 a month. He felt like he felt like he'd failed his family. He was my hero. He said, you got to go to school, son. So I saved my money. He said, you save every penny you got. I took the milk, run the milk through the separator, separate the cream. Once a week, take the cream, 2.5 gallons of cream. That Jersey cow, she gave a lot of cream. I could get about $1 a gallon. Put it in the bank. By the time I got old enough to go to college, I'll stop here. So when I was 16 years old, I joined the LDS church. My mom and dad weren't in favor of that, but they let me do what I thought was right. And I really appreciate that. It changed my life. Went to BYU when I got out of high school. I had I'd saved up enough money for 5 semesters of college, of tuition, nothing for board and room, just tuition. So when I got down to BYU, I found a job at a laundromat, and the guy that owned the laundromat let me stay let me put a bed behind the dryers, and I stayed there my freshman year, slept behind the dryers, and he paid me $50 a month for washing the whole place down 3 times a day. When I got out I still got more here. So I went on my mission. When I got called on a mission when I was 19, took the money that I had. I only got to 2 semesters of college, so I had 3 semesters left. Took that, spent on my mission. Won't bore you with. There's lots of stories there I could tell. I won't bore you with that. But I thought I'd sacrifice my education for my mission. I hadn't. When I got off my mission, before I got off my mission, the mission president told me that he wanted me to go be one of the instructors at the language training mission that was preparing mission at Rick's College, now BYU, Idaho, to prepare missionaries. He chose me and this other one. And he said he wanted us to go do that. And so I got a full scholarship, place to stay, had to buy our own food, but got paid for doing this. And so I got my education all back. I got a lot of other scholarships along the way. I got through college without having any debt. I was so fortunate. Joined a Fortune 500 company, ADP. Was with them for 10 years. Fortune 500 company, good outfit, taught me a lot about business. That's where I really gained took business administration, but my real education was this ADP. Became a vice president with them, then left them, got recruited by Cox Communications, also as a VP with Cox Communications, and then left there, was recruited by my brother-in-law, Roger Ball, to come help start a company here that he had got off the ground that he calls Oil of Melaleuca. And I decided to move my family, leave corporate America and move my family there. That company didn't work. It had some major issues. We closed it down 5 months after I got here. And but I had a new vision. I told him I think we could start something together. I'd love to be a partner. And we started Melaleuca Inc. in September 1985. The company's prospered now. We've been in business 37 years. We're in 20 countries, 4,000 employees around the world. Forbes does estimates on companies. They've caused me some grief, Forbes magazine has, because they've put me on some lists. They value the value of Melaleuca at more than $5 billion. Don't know if that's true. I'm really proud of what I didn't build this. I got a team that built that, and they really did an awesome job. And I'm really proud of what they built, and I'm really proud to be a part of it. But Forbes, because they value Melaleuca at $5 billion, they put me on this list. You know, they got all these lists. And they named me a billionaire because I'm a majority shareholder in of Melaleuca. And so people, some of the people we just mentioned here, they like to, when they write the articles, they like to say he's a billionaire with the B. It's supposed to discredit whatever. And the truth is, if I was ever going to have $1 billion, which I don't, I'd have to sell the company to get there. So the only reason I'm on that list is because of what they value Melaleuca as. I'm not complaining. I got lots of resources, more than I ever dreamed. I never anticipated, was never to be wealthy. Was never on my to-do list, wasn't on my bucket list. I would never anticipate it ever be possible or probable, or it's a testimony based on how my beginnings were, a testimony to America and what's possible here, and what you can go and build based on the laws that were created by those are the founders of our nation who wrote our Constitution, who gave us the freedom to go and build and made America such a powerful nation because people prospered from free enterprise. And if you stop and think about it, thank heavens for free enterprise. If we didn't have free enterprise, this nation would never have prospered. It's great that America is prosperous because we would have never been able to come to the rescue of Europe during the, World War II. That we'd be Hitler would have won if it hadn't been for free enterprise in America that lifted this nation up and gave us prosperity, so that we had the means that we could go out and fight that war and win over the tyranny of Hitler. So I'm an advocate for free enterprise, big time. I got married when I was in college. We were married a girl from Rigby, Idaho. That's one of the reasons that I was enticed to come back here. But we went through a divorce after 16 years of marriage. Never thought I'd be divorced. In 1995, that's 27 years ago, I found Belinda, and she grew up in Los Angeles, and you might think she had liberal roots, but she doesn't. She's more conservative than I am, and she had 8 children, and I had 6, and I enticed her, talked her into coming to marry me and to live here in Idaho Falls 27 years ago. 9 daughters and 5 sons. We've been married now for 27 years. We have 54 grandchildren and the most wonderful life anybody could ever imagine. And it's because of her. The magic is her. Anyway, told us I'm going to embarrass her. This is Belinda here. Wave your hand so it's and got a bunch of kids are back. Okay, so you all you VanderSloot grandkids and daughters and sons-in-law, stand up for a second. I just want to recognize you. Come on, stand up quick. And then that's only a portion of them, but we have the best thing in the world going, and that anybody could ever imagine. Now, I've said I'm not going to run for office, never have, not going to. Accusation here, accusation, maybe I didn't post it. One of the accusations that I'm trying to control the Republican Party. I want to dispose that myth. I don't know why I would want to do that. I want to protect it. I surely don't want to control it. Now, I've been active in conservative causes, and I'm going to tell you everything I've done. So you know. So when people say these things, you know where that's coming from. I don't know how many years ago, Kathy Seilik was on the Supreme Court. She was the most liberal. She was the Supreme Court Justice. I don't even know, that had to be 25 years ago. She had founded the ACLU here. She wrote the decision that gave Idaho water to the federal government. I thought she should be taken. We played a role. I played a role, and a big role in exposing and for the first time in history, the public voted a member of the Supreme Court out of office. And then I'm going to count them. I was involved in that. Keith Rourke, I got a message from the spouse of one of our leaders in Boise, and she said, we're going to be in trouble, the Republican Party. Guy by the name of Keith Rourke. He's an attorney from Lewiston. He's very wealthy. He's just put $100,000. He's running for attorney general. He just put $100,000 into the campaign. The opposing candidate, the Republican candidate, is a guy by the name of Lawrence Wasden. Lawrence doesn't have that kind of money. He's worked in the attorney general's office his whole life. He hasn't made a lot of money there. But Keith Rourke wants to be governor someday. And if he's not stopped here, he's going to get a foothold. And so I think we didn't put in 100,000, but we tried to level the playing field. We've done this over and over and over. When somebody tries to buy an election with a lot of money, we'll often come up and say, we're going to try to level the playing field. We gave him, PACs and so forth. And back then, free speech and all of that, $40,000 to help level the playing field, and he got elected. So we played that role. Been involved in two laws. One was a law that made it legal. This one could potentially have affected Melaleuca. It didn't. It never has, but make it legal for a company to enter into a non-compete agreement with employees. The laws weren't clear in Idaho whether that was the courts would support that or not. We supported a law that said you could enter into a non-compete agreement on key employees and key employees only. We've never used it, but full disclosure, we participated in helping get that law passed. And then the Idaho Patient Act, which I'm going to get into in a few minutes. Been involved there. I became the campaign one out of 13, no biggie, a co-chair for Mitt Romney's campaign, financial co-chair. Like I said, 13 of them in the country. My organization, I'm really proud of it. We're writing $58 million to Mitt Romney's campaign. Here's where things started to get a little dicey, though. We put Melaleuca put in $1 million into. I think there was one Mitt Romney PAC. By the way, okay, I want to do a disclaimer here. I don't like what Mitt Romney is doing today. Okay. I don't like what he's doing today. I would not have supported him today, but back then, he was a good option. I'm just guessing that if you're of voting age, back then, you probably voted for Mitt Romney. And I supported him too. He showed up at our house. We became friends. I don't know what he's up to today. I can't explain it, but I supported that. We put $1 million into his PAC. Okay. Barack Obama and his campaign, that changed my life. That $1 million donation from Melaleuca changed my life. I wouldn't be here today, I'm pretty sure, standing here, if not changed my life. Because Barack Obama came after me personally for that donation. He put me on a list. The Wall Street Journal called it the Obama's enemies list. No president had ever done this before, but he named 8 donors to the Mitt Romney campaign, and he named them, basically pointed them out as 8 most dangerous Republicans, financial backers, my only disappointment was at the time that I was 8th on the list. I wasn't first on the list. But they posted it on a website, keeping the GOP honest. This was Barack Obama's campaign, his campaign's website. Behind the curtain, a brief history of Romney's donors. And I'm not going to show you it's a whole website. Listed these 8 guys, right? And holy smokes, the world came after us. All the liberal press, they started attacking. The phones rang off the hook. We lost hundreds of customers the first day. Hundreds of customers. I remember, I thought, dude, gosh, he put a target on my back here. I don't know what's going to happen to my company. I mean, the phones were just one cancellation after another, and then in a moment of weakness, that day, at the end of the day, it was the most hellacious business day I've had in my life. I met with my management team, and I was feeling so guilty what I'd done to our company, and I was in tears. I don't get teary with my management team that often, but I apologized to them. I said, I'm really sorry what I've done. I'm really sorry. I'm really, really sorry. I don't know how to undo this damage. I don't know, but I just want you to know how sorry I am that I've caused this horrible damage to come to our company. And I went to bed that night. I don't know if I remember waking up the next morning, and I don't know if I had a dream. I don't remember a dream. All I know what was on my mind when I woke up that morning. Declaration of Independence. That was, and those 56 men who signed that, I just woke up, I went to bed thinking, feeling defeated, and I woke up with, holy smokes, those guys, those 56 guys, when I'm sure they'd read it several times. They helped choose the words probably. I'm sure they went home before they signed. It was a big decision. I'm sure they signed. They went home and they told their wife, honey, I'm going to sign this. What do you think their wife said? I'm guessing. Don't you dare sign that. They'll come after us. They'll burn our homes. They will call you a traitor. They will hang you and maybe hang us all. Don't you dare sign that. And they signed it anyway. Thank heavens. And I woke up thinking, what courage those guys had. And so I thought, I'm going to fight this. I'm not going to cower from these. So I got on the phone and called these other 7 guys, got their phone numbers, called them up, said, I got an idea. We're the enemies list. Okay, I'm number 8. You're number 1, number 2. Let's sell T-shirts where everybody can join us. All the Romney supporters. We'll sell. You could be number 879, and you could be I'm on the enemies list. Just because you made a donation. That's why you're on the list, because you made a flippin' donation. I said, let's do that. 3 guys said yes. The other 4 all said something like, and I remember one especially, and they all said something like, don't ever call me again. This has ruined my life. It's ruined my business. I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to hear from Mitt Romney ever again. And no, I don't want to be on no list. So leave me alone. We said, it's just the 4 of us would be kind of empty without the other 4. So we scratched that idea, but I thought, holy smokes. If I cower, then they'll have won. They teach the lesson with me. If you cower, you shut up, You be quiet because they attacked you. I can't do that. So I called up a lady by the name of Kim Strassel. I knew about her because she'd written an article about the enemies list. And the article she wrote was, no president's ever done this before. What are these guys going to do? And sure enough, it come true what she forecasted. They're going to come after these guys. So she'd made a point, and I called her up and said, sure enough, I mean, we got cancellations. So I don't know quite how this happened, but all of a sudden I get these phone calls from Fox News. I was on all these different programs with Fox News about this being on the enemies list and what it was doing to us. And so anyway, I'm going to show you just one of, I don't know, probably 9 different interviews I did. This one was with Bill O'Reilly. Let's see if this works.
That sells wellness products out of Idaho is under siege because the CEO donated $1 million to a super PAC that supports Mitt Romney. And that CEO, Frank VanderSloot, is being personally attacked as well. He joins us now here in New York City. So I want the folks to know how intense this became for you. You're a big Obama fundraiser out in Idaho, correct?
Romney.
I'm sorry, Romney fundraiser. And the Romney campaign people, re-election people, got wind that you gave $1 million to this PAC. So what did they do?
Well, on April 20th, they published a list of 8 individuals, supposedly with, they said, less than reputable records. News to me. I thought I had a good record. But when I first saw the list, I thought, this is scary. And within hours of that, then all kinds of things started appearing on the internet, suggesting all kinds of accusations against me, rewriting history, as it were, about all kinds of things I was supposedly guilty of. And
did it impact your business directly?
Well, it did right away. The first day, phone calls started coming in. And we had customers who said they wanted to cancel, people who didn't
Because
understand.
you were a mean guy. You're a rat. They wanted to cancel because you're just a lousy guy. They read that on the net.
Well, they hit me first with, they said that I hated gay people and I was anti-gay, which
So you're anti-gay, so they smeared you.
They did.
Okay.
We lost a couple hundred customers so far, and then we started getting that turned around. And then thankfully, Kim Strassel from the Wall Street Journal did an article last Friday, and then everything's turning around now and heading in the opposite direction.
Some believe this is economic terrorism, not economic, political terrorism. That targeting a businessman like you, running an honest business, because of your freedom to donate who you want to donate to, but try to ruin you personally and professionally. That's terrorism, political terrorism. Do you see it that way?
Well, I have these 2 questions, Bill, to President Obama. Why did you publish a list? Why?
Because they want to hurt you and intimidate others who would give to Romney. That's why.
So then the second question is, who is supposed to receive the message? Is it only the liberal press that's supposed to go after these folks? Or is it also the agencies that he runs, like that he's in charge of and who report to him and want to please him? Well, the FTC, the FDA, the USDA.
I think you may be making it more complicated than it is. Here's the bottom line. They want you to shut up and not give any money, and you're going to give another donation, I understand, to the Romney campaign. But they want to intimidate you from giving any money to the campaign, and others like you who might be thinking of it. Could business people go, I'm not going to do that because they'll put my name on a web, and I'll lose customers, so I'm not going to. That's what they. But that's terrorism.
And
that's what that is.
I suppose it is.
Right.
I think the only response to this, I think the only response is to make another donation, another $100,000. And I would like to invite everybody. I mean, if they want to attack me, I don't suppose this is going to like reduce the attacks.
No, it'll probably accelerate them. But you're a stand-up guy. Look, if Romney wins, you're being what they call tall cotton.
But perhaps everybody else can donate in peace, and that's how it should be in America. This should not happen in America.
I agree, Mr. VanderSloot. Thanks for coming in here.
So, so Kim Strassel went to write a book, became a bestseller, donated a chapter of it to in her best-selling book to Melaleuca and to this story. So now, notice he said I was making it too complicated when I said these other agencies, are they going to come after us? And guess what? In the next 7 weeks, I was audited twice by the IRS and audited twice by the Department of Labor. immediately after that came. They came right after us, gunning for us. The result of the audits were the IRS ended up owing me some monies because my accountants had made a slight error. So, but on the Department of Labor, they audited our H-2 workers' homes. They found a hole in the screen door that let some flies in the house, and the Hispanic worker hadn't put a lid on the garbage can. So there's flies in the garbage can, and he cited a $6,000 for flies in the garbage can. So that's the result of the audits. So don't, I learned, yeah, they'll send the agencies too. He didn't have to do it. They just want to please show me which way, boss. That's where I'm headed. That's how they look at it. Now, along the way, what about this Obama donation? Along the way, I made a bet with a very liberal friend who's affiliated with Melaleuca. He lived in Texas. I told him I bet him that I could get Mitt Romney to talk to him personally because he was really liberal. And the bet was that if I could pull that off, he had to give Romney a $2,100 campaign donation. I won the bet. He paid his $2,100. But there was another part of the bet. I don't remember exactly what it was, but if I lost that bet, I had to pay his candidate $250, which, and I ended up, and I did that. I paid his candidate, which was Barack Obama. It's on the list. Go see. I donated to Barack Obama $250. But I thought it was a pretty good trade. I got $2,100 from him. He got $250 from me. I thought it was a good deal. Now, I'm going to go into to this. I'm going to do, whoops, didn't move forward on me. Whoops, there we go. Okay, I made donations. This is the last 11 years. These guys are saying that, I just want to point this out because this idea of attacking people is happening within our own party. And that's why I'm bringing it up. Did they try to shut me up by attacking me? Those are liberal tactics. I don't think they were tactics that Republicans should be using. So I'm only putting this stuff up here. I wouldn't normally do this. I'm just saying, okay, you're really going to call me a rhino? You're really going to call me a Democrat? You're going to say I'm an Obama donor for $250? In the last 11 years, me and my wife and Melaleuca, me and Belinda and Melaleuca combined $26 million to conservative causes, and specifically to Republicans. I did support Cindy Wilson for superintendent of schools of Idaho. She was running against Sherry Ybarra. I thought she was a much better candidate. I interviewed her, did my own research, did my own interviews, spent a lot of time on it. I thought she was a great candidate. I thought she would have done a great job, better than Sherry. She lost. I gave her $20,000, or didn't give her $20,000, but we supported her campaign to the tune of $20,000. All public, all exposed, not private, like some of these guys, all in the open. It's on the record. Other Democrats, we've given $18,000 to in the last 11 years, okay? Some of it was to help pay for somebody's party, the Democrats' party. And I'll keep doing that, guys. If they have a party, they have a table at their event here in Idaho Falls or wherever they are in the state, I'll pay $2,000 for their table. I haven't gone yet, but if I'm available, I'll go. I'll sit down with those people. We'll talk. We'll be friends. You want to hit me and say I gave a donation to their party? Then have at it. The comparison there, though I'm going to do it, I'll sit at their table and I'll ask them to my table too. And maybe, and we'll talk about policy in a friendly way. I'm not going to attack them because they disagree. I don't think they're the enemy. They're a potential voter. If we could, maybe they won't ever vote with us, but we shouldn't make them our enemies by attacking them unfairly. So 26 million versus 18. That's how the graph would look. We had the computer wouldn't put in the line because it was so small. We had to write it in. I'm thinking this might be 100 feet across here, this room. 100 feet, I'm guessing about 100 feet. If our donation would stretch clear across the room, the donation to Democrats would be 1.5 inches. To put things in perspective. Now, why would these guys be saying I'm a donor to Democrats? Why would they say it? We're going to get there. We're going to go there. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, Republican, 2009, Frank VanderSloot, Republican Party in Idaho, most valuable person. I had it, whoops, trying to get it off of that. We can move it off, guys. There you go. Now, here's the point. Doyle Beck, Brian Smith, Mark Fuller, they all know those stories. They were here. They know the background. They did the research. They got the information. The fact that I got it made a $250 Obama donor that they dug up and then tried to make people believe that I was an Obama donor and a Democrat because of it. They knew all this other stuff. They knew about the 26 million. It was on the same website. Why would they try to make people believe something that they know isn't true? Why do they try to deceive people and to believe something they know is not true? They knew we got 58 million to the Obama campaign when they said that. Go through the list. I'll just skip over some things. They know of all the facts. Why do they do that? Why do they write that nonsense? Remember I mentioned there's an alliance of folks. Brian Smith, Doyle Beck, Mark Fuller. I don't know who else is in the alliance, but those three people definitely are. I'm going to say again, they're not bad people. I want to be their friend. I don't want to be their enemy. To be their friend, if I have to agree with everything that they pitch and everything they say, I can't support them in those things. If they say things that are untrue, if they attack people wrongly, I can't. But we should be working together. Melaleuca and I supported the Idaho Patient Act. What's behind that? I'm going to try and move quickly. Oops. Okay. The Idaho Patient Act. Here's what happened. I'll try to get through it really quickly. It takes a minute. Melaleuca, this was back a couple years ago. Melaleuca gets a garnishment from Brian Smith's firm. We get garnishments all the time. We don't pay. I mean, we just pay them. They garnish an employee, whatever they went through. In this case, it was a little bit weird because the garnishment it tells you the Social Security number and the name. Didn't match. We had an employee with that Social Security number, not that name. Our attorney, I didn't even know. I had nothing to do with this. I learned all about this later. So the attorneys called Brian Smith back and say, we need more information. This doesn't match up. He said, you got to send it to me anyway. Send me the money. We said, we can't do that. I mean, our attorneys, this person was Ryan Nelson, who's now serves, on the Court of Appeals as a judge. He was on the discussion with Brian Smith. It got heated, I guess, on the other side, and he said, even if I say Donald Duck, you still got to send me the money. We said, we can't do that. Just send us an interrogatory. Discussions went back and forth for a while, and then they sent Melaleuca a letter demanding we should just send us an interrogatory. An interrogatory is a legal document. So we have a track record, a written, track record, a paper record of what went on here. And so they said, we said, send us an interrogatory and then we can do it. But we can't just do it over the phone like this. Instead of that, we get a demand that Melaleuca pay the money. And a threat, they're going to take us to court if we don't pay the money directly. You owe us the money if we wouldn't. So it ends up in court. It would have been such an easy solution. Send us an interrogatory, we give you the name, it's done. There's something else at play here, guys. We'll show you what that is in just a second. So we end up in court with these guys. Melaleuca wins and they're demanding payment, and we're saying, we don't owe you the money. But if you'll just send us your interrogatory, and the judge asked, Melaleuca wins. The judge says, Melaleuca doesn't owe you the money. Why don't you just send him the interrogatory like they asked for? So he agrees to do that. Leaves the courtroom. A few days later, we get the interrogatory, which is the legal request. We supply the Social Security number, and we garnish the wages. They had the Social Security number. We didn't have to supply that. We garnished the wages of the employee, female employee. The amount for garnishment was $1,307. Now, she didn't know anything about this until she got the garnishment. She never knew anything, she claims. She didn't know anything about it. Surprised to her that she even owed the money. She was supposed to have been served a subpoena to show up in court. The way that they got them, the judge to garnish the wages was a default judgment. A default judgment means there was a court date. One party shows up, the attorneys. The patient doesn't show up. She doesn't know about it. She and her husband claim they never got summons to the court. Interesting, as we go down, a whole bunch of other people have been claiming this too, and I'll tell you about that. But anyway, back to the story. So she pays the money. We garnish it over the next 6 pay periods. A little bit more than $200 a pay period. That's a lot for somebody that doesn't have a high income. She thinks it's done. Oh, not so quick, folks. It's not done. Not by a long shot, it ain't done. Silence for 3 months. Everybody goes on with normal life. Out of the blue comes a bill from Smith Driscoll, which is Brian Smith's firm. The bill is for $5,464 of attorney fees. Okay? Ooh, what's that for? It's a big long list, page after page. So, in essence, what we learned from evaluating the bill, she shows it to her boss, and the boss brings it to our attorneys and evaluating the bill. This is the story. Remember, her bill was only $294. Now it's up to $1,300. And the way they got it up to $1,300, they applied attorney fees. They applied attorney fees by going to the judge and say, well, we had to collect this, so give us $410. The judge said, how about if I just give you $294, since that's the size of the bill? There's no guidance, or wasn't, there is now, no guidance for judges. They don't know what to do. They ask for money. This judge said, he or she, I don't know, said $294. Okay, now, $294. They come back a couple weeks later with a whole bunch of stack of other cases, and they say, Judge, you just give us $294. Please, okay, we said $410. How about $400? The judge said, okay, $400, okay. Gives her the $400. We didn't know about that, but that's how they got it up to the $1,300. But now it's 3 months, well, like 6 months after that, she gets hit with the bill, because now they're charging her $500 and some dollars because they had to go back and ask the judge for an increase to her bill, or to attorney fees. You understand? They billed her $500 more in attorney fees because they went and asked the judge to increase from the $294. So they got another $106 from the judge. In the process, they charged her $500 attorney fees for going and getting it. You're starting to see what's going on here. Besides that, the court case that Melaleuca, they were in with Melaleuca, there was another $4,000 or $5,000 that they tacked on because they needlessly took Melaleuca or caused us to go into the courtroom with them. So now she gets a bill for $5,000. Our attorneys say, this is not okay. And they said, we'll support you. We'll defend you. And so we show up in the courtroom. Brian Smith's there in the courtroom. We went to the press also. East Idaho News is there. They're taking an interest in this because we told them this is crazy. What's going on here? East Idaho News is there. Brian Smith sees East Idaho News. He tells the judge, let's go to Chambers. And back in Chambers, he says, I just think we're not going to follow through with this. And they drop the case. It's amazing what a little sunlight will do on a situation. Speaking of sunlight, East Idaho News ran 4 different series on collection tactics of medical debt. There we are. Holy smoly! The response to those stories by the story by East Idaho News, 3,200 written comments from the public, just little Idaho Falls. 3,200. They did it to me too. They did it to me too. Here's my story. Here's my story. Here's my story. my story. One story I remember clearly said they took everything. The same collection folks. They took everything, including my baby's crib. It was pretty hairy, guys. And then Belinda and I got together and we said, okay, let's try to do something about this. Let's talk to these people. We interviewed some of them ourselves. And we said, we got to help them. So we started an organization called Idaho Medical Debt. We put up $1 million to defend these people from some pretty outrageous collection practices. We made public that we had 1,330 requests. We took 287 cases, our attorneys did. We defended them. We burned through $1 million pretty fast. And we helped a lot of those folks out. Some of it was too late. But in the process, we learned a whole lot about medical debt collection. It became apparent that really it wasn't about collecting money for doctors' debts. It was about running up attorney fees. This is our employee, $294 original debt. The original garnishment they'd run up through attorney fees, $1,300. Then they added on additional attorney fees after the fact that I explained. Just attorney fees on a little $294 debt. Total bill, $6,771 on a bill she still to this day doesn't know what she had done, because as far as they knew, they'd paid all their bills. The doctors don't get the whole $294. This is a guess. They probably get 2/3, and the collecting company gets $175. The attorneys get $5,864. So here's the bottom line. And this particular one, and might be a little tough wording to call it a scheme, but it's all about running up the attorney fees. In this case, the doctors got one. What they say is, well, the doctors deserve the money. The doctors do. It's not about doctors, guys. It's about attorney fees. So we said we should change. And the worst about it, it appeared that it was all legal. And Idaho's laws allowed them to do it. There's no guidance on how much attorney fees to give, and they ask for whatever. If you don't show up in court, you get default judgment. If people don't know they're called to court, you automatically get default judgment. Here's what else we learned. People are unlikely to pay if they don't know they owe the bill, if they're confused. They get a bill from emergency room, doctors, hospitals, anesthesiologists, pharmacies, x-ray. The doctor reads the x-ray and the bill goes on. If you've ever been to the emergency, you ever had it, the bills just keep coming. A lot of doctors wait a year to the end of the year so you have all your deductible paid first, and sometimes you don't get a bill for the year later. You think it's all paid up. The insurance company's all paid up, but no, you keep getting these bills, and then that's when the debt collectors move in. See if the guy pays the bill. There's nothing to collect. No revenue for either the attorneys or the debt collector. But if it's confusing, then it's more likely for the customer, the patient, to say, and I'm not saying this by design, I'm just saying that's how it is. They're not likely to pay. So we instituted the Idaho Patient Act. We worked with the Idaho Medical Association, Idaho Hospital Association, Independent Doctors of Idaho, the Idaho Dental Association, and other associations. And we negotiated language that the doctors agreed to and said this: within 60 days, patients will receive a list of everyone that's going to bill them. That was one of the problems, in that people don't know who's going to bill them. In one case, we heard a story where the guy gets in an accident. It's in the middle of the night. He goes to the emergency room. They take x-rays. No doctor's operating offices. They send the x-ray to somebody to read the x-ray to Australia, doctor in Australia. They're awake over there in the middle of the night. It's their daytime. The doctor in Australia reads the x-ray. Sends back, yeah, it's broken, or no, it's not broken. I don't remember which it was. But has to pay the bill anyway, because he bills. So it's, I don't know how much later, the guy sitting at goes out and gets the mail. He's got a doctor bill from Australia. He's never been to Australia. He wads it up and throws it away. It's a scam. Didn't know they had somebody in Australia read it. He is legitimately thinking he doesn't have a bill. The collectors come, the collection agency comes, he argues it. Bang, pretty soon he's got attorney fees out the yin-yang. And so this stops that. You're going to get a list now if you're in Idaho Took them a year to implement it, but now if you go to the doctor, you get a list. They don't have to. If they want to use the courts to collect the bill, they got to have done this. They don't have to. It's a free world. They don't have to. They can bill you without it. But if they're going to use the Idaho courts to collect the bill and assign you a bunch of attorney fees, they need to have given you the list. Here's all the people that are going to send you the bill. Doctors will submit a charge to the insurance company within 45 days of seeing the patient. They can't wait till the end of the year. You got to get the bill early enough that you can make sense of it. Patients will receive a bill accurately identifying the amount the patient owes after insurance and other payments. That's fair. Show me, reconcile the insurance with the payment. Show me what I owe at the bottom. And here's a tough one for the collection agencies. You need to allow the patient 60 days after he gets the bill before you go turn it over to collection and hurt his credit. Give him 60 days. He wasn't planning on the accident. It wasn't in his budget, these high medical costs. He doesn't even know how much insurance is going to pay. Give him 60 days and then send him the bill before you can turn it over to collections. And then 90 days before you take him to court. You got to give him 90 days before you can take him in the courtroom. Let me ask you, does that look like a liberal bill to you? What conservative person wouldn't want to have that protection for their own family? Who wouldn't want to have that? And if it's a default judgment, attorneys are, if the other party didn't show up in court, the most the judge can give them is $250. They can argue it. The judge can give more, but gives the judge some guidance, right? Gives the judge some guidance. Now, who wouldn't want that? The medical people want it. The doctors said they were fine with it. We negotiated the language with them. We originally asked for everybody to put how much they were going to charge on the bill. They said that's going too far. They didn't want to be that transparent. They didn't want other doctors to know how much they charge. They didn't want the hospital to know what they charge. The hospital didn't want the doctors. It's too transparent. We had to back down off of that, or they would not have given us their support. But they were supportive of this. But here's what the Freedom Foundation, and this is important that people understand when the Freedom Foundation writes something. Why would the Freedom Foundation write something like this? It's Brian Smith's on their board of directors. Right, the bill imposes restrictions on free speech. It didn't. Even though our national and state constitutions prohibit the government from limiting this right. How can we possibly view the Idaho Patient Act as being in alignment with the Idaho State Constitution and freedom of speech when it denies doctors the ability to report a credit bureau that patient owes her money? That's not what the bill does. The bill says you just have to wait 60 days, and then you can hit the credit company. Then you can go for collections. So it's false information. Now, why would the Idaho Freedom Foundation give the public false information like that? Because they want to attack VanderSloot, discredit VanderSloot for having helped pass this bill. And I'll go back to when we were in Boise, testifying on why this bill would be helpful. We had supreme support across the board, except for a few. The ones who didn't support it are the ones who are members of the Alliance, and the ones who came to us and said, I'd like to support your bill. But the Freedom Foundation has given it a score of -9 as being a super liberal bill. Boy, I can't afford that kind of negative score on my conservative views. I want to support you. I am behind you. I don't dare do it. So they use their influence. They do this ranking to force people to support things that they want. I'm not suggesting everything they want is bad. I'm just asking, let's be honest with people. There is a secret alliance. They support each other. Remember the guy who came, the legislator, he said, Frank, they're mad because you are reducing the income of one of the members of the club. And I'm just asking all members of the club. Boy, we ought to be on the same page with each other, you guys. We ought to be on the same page. We ought to be supporting each other. We shouldn't be attacking each other. Even if it's to somebody's financial advantage, we shouldn't do it. I'm going to close up here in just a second. I mentioned there was a couple of things that we exposed. This last thing has to do with the flyers that were on the these cars. And by the way, I do have some questions. We're going to invite you. You all can leave when you want to. I got 98 questions to answer, and I'm taking. Believe me, I'm not offended if you leave, not at all. But so we got a call from Tom Luna. And he said, look, I'm looking for any company or any individual to stand up and help me. I got a situation here I can't deal with. I don't know how to deal with it. But the Bonneville County Republican Central Committee is sending out flyers that are untruthful. They are violating their bylaws. And what he explained to me, the Central Committee had bylaws that said, send us your money. And people had sent thousands of dollars to the local committee. Good for them. But they were sent this money on the promise that if you send us the money, we'll use it. This is what their bylaw said, and this is the promises that were made to people who donated to the committee. We won't take a position in the primary. That's what their bylaw said. We will only use it in the general. We're not going to sponsor or promote or take sides on the primaries. That's pretty logical. If you send us, trust us with your money now. And people sent thousands. And after they got it, they said, guess what? We are going to endorse members of and we're going to send money to our own chosen candidates. And we're going to endorse candidates contrary to what we told you. Thank you for sending the money. We're going to use it possibly on the opposite candidate that you're supporting. You were going to use your money on the opposite candidate of what you're supporting. And Tom felt, we can't. We're going to lose credibility as a party. And then besides that, they were taking corporate funds, our understanding, corporate funds. Melaleuca had donated to the local committee, by the way. We donated. We're on the list. You can't take corporate funds and give it to a federal candidate. So in one of the committee meetings, according to the minutes, Brian Zollinger, employee of Brian Smith, voted to give some of the money to a federal candidate. Brian Smith, his boss, don't know if Brian Smith voted on it or not. We do know he got the money, $1,000, not a lot. It's been so easy to solve. When it was pointed out that was an error, could have given it back. Tom Luna called him, please give that money back. And don't send out this flyer. This was the flyer. It had already been sent out. The flyer said, the official Republican Party recommends these conservative, this is during the primary now, conservative candidates. The official Republican Party. Who do you think that is? Well, most people would think it's the official Republican Party. Must be the GOP, must be Idaho. That's what the judge thought it meant. So anyway, Tom Luna calls up and says, I don't know what to do. I've talked to them. He gave a statement, it was on your chair. Evidently, according to Tom, the spokesperson was Doyle Beck. Doyle Beck said, what are you going to do, sue us? Send us to jail? And he said, they're not going to budge, and I can't let them do this. It's a slur on the party. It's illegal. We don't want this. It's unfair because the GOP is not supporting these guys. I mean, we don't take a position. We don't support them. We don't not support them. But to say that we do support them is going to possibly sway the election unfairly with misinformation is not true. And I've tried to talk to them. They will not. All they had to do is say, give the $1,000 back and not send out this flyer. But they said they were going to do anyway. He said, I'm forced to. They said, what are you going to do, sue me? I don't want to. I got it secondhand. I didn't talk to Tom. He called our government relations people, talked to our attorneys. They gave me I said, does he have a case? Is this really going on? According to their judgment, it was. We felt really torn and conflicted because the federal government's already after me. I'm giving, and Melaleuca, we're giving donations to conservative candidates. We know they're going to come after us. If they find us being complicit with violating federal campaign laws, which this was, according to the opinion of the legal people we talked to, then we're implicated. Now we're accomplices. And we said, we can't do that. Are you sure? Talk to them again. Well, I promised to pay. I still haven't got the bill, by the way, but I did promise to pay. That's why I got the flyers. Now, So what happened to this lawsuit? The judge agreed. No, he put in a temporary injunction saying you cannot send this out. Told him he wouldn't send it out. It's not truthful. It's against not only the bylaws, it's against the GOP can endorse them according to their own bylaws, and it's a primary after all. Now I will be accurate here. This was a state court. It was not federal court. The violation of federal law wasn't brought up in that state courtroom. Wasn't need to. That was not the issue. The judge agreed that the GOP is going to win this lawsuit, and granted, he had to agree to that, or had to deem that, or they wouldn't have stopped, put in the preliminary injunction. Now I'm going to call out the members of the local committee now, because clearly the lawsuit was with them, was on them. The individual members of the committee were named in the lawsuit. We didn't have anything to do with naming who or what. Melaleuca didn't. We just said, we'll furnish the money if you have a legitimate case. Our attorney said they did, and we made that promise. Still hasn't happened, but we made the promise. Now, Mark Fuller was named. I'm going too fast. Mark Fuller was named as a defendant. At the convention, they put flyers on the windshields that we showed you about Frank VanderSloot, because we admitted we helped pay for that. But it wasn't anything in argument with that. He was a liberal, he's a Democrat, he's an Obama donor, those kind of things. That was their story. Mark Fuller was a defendant. His name was on, but he now had become the vice chair of the Idaho State GOP. So now he was a spokesperson for the plaintiff. At the same time, he was the defendant. That wasn't dirty. I mean, that's legit. It was just kind of an awkward situation he found himself in, I'm guessing. So he tries, the local Bonneville County Committee makes a resolution that they passed here before they went to state convention, I think. And they said, we resolved that we asked this party to remove the lawsuit against us. And they presented that to the resolution committee at the national or the state convention. That motion failed. He couldn't get there was 11, I think, 4 and 11 against. There was several people who thought we should go on with this lawsuit. So Mark maneuvered, and I think legitimately, to have the body vote on it. Many of the members, if not most of them, have already gone home. The folks that had left, and I wasn't there, so I don't know. I'm told that a lot of them had gone home. Don't know that for sure. The remaining body didn't know even what the lawsuit was about, and they voted to have the party remove the lawsuit, which is fine. That's their right to do that. But we should be honest about what it was. That's all I'm asking for. Mark Fuller, I thought Mark might be here, and Mark, I'm pretty sure you're listening right now. So I would just say, Mark, and then I will tell Mark, I respect you a lot. You've given years of service to your church and years of service to individuals. I really, really respect you. And people trust you to tell them the truth about things. And I know you're in an awkward position here. And maybe you're taking your attorney position, but here's what Mark said. It's not totally untrue, but it's surely misleading. And what I understand from the people that are belonging to Doug's group is they understood that the judge threw this case out because it had no merit. Maybe they believe that because Mark wrote this. The vacation of this, or the vacating of this order, reinforces the great value and importance of freedom of speech. It restricted the party's right to freedom of speech. It was, by the way, the judge said, it makes it look like the judge threw it out. I guess that was represented, but I don't know for sure. I didn't hear myself, but I know everybody thought, oh, the judge threw this out. It had no merit. No, it had tons of merit. The judge said this is going to win, and it should be stopped. And the judge didn't say because of freedom of speech. The judge said it's untruthful, and they shouldn't be allowed to do it. That's what the judge said. But that's my understanding. I wasn't there, but that's my understanding. The judge, it was against the rules, whatever the purposes were. It's all public. You can go to it. I imagine it'll be in the rebuttal somehow. My point is the judge didn't throw it out. Well, in the end, the second judge did because the party dropped the lawsuit, basically, because Mark Fuller asked him to drop the lawsuit. That's why. The reason I'm bringing this up, because of Tom Luna, who I think is a real credible guy and a truthful guy trying to do the right thing. He sacrificed his whole political career, apparently. He was under terrific attack by all this misinformation. And I just want to stick up for the guy. I want to stick up for the guy. The man is an honorable man. He shouldn't be slurred like this. It was not a bully tactic intended to publicly intimidate and silence the local Republican Party. It was because it was untruthful and unfair and against party rules at the time. Now they've amended the rules, and I'll say this about that. I think people ought to be careful. They ought to know what the rules are if they're going to give money. And we ought to ask, and now those folks are in office in the state party. If they're going to use people's funds at a primary, people that entrust their funds to them and make donations, I'm calling the Republican GOP, the Idaho GOP, should make it clear to the public that we're going to use your funds to give to the candidates of our choice, regardless of who the candidate is of your choice. And we're going to do that in the primary. I don't know that they're going to do that. It's not clear. And what I'm being told by party leaders, they haven't made it clear. I'm asking them here and now, I imagine some of them are watching, you should make it clear. How are you going to use the funds that are entrusted in your care? That's all I'm asking for. Let's be truthful. Let's be honest. And now, after all of that, I'm going to just say I'm calling for people's honesty, and I'm calling for unity. Whatever happened here in the past, I totally forgive. I got my day in court, as it were. Doug, I appreciate it. They'll have a rebuttal. You guys decide where these things stand. Hopefully I've spoken to you the truth. If I have misspoken, I hope they'll point it out, and I hope that I believe I'll be man enough to own anything that I said that here that's not accurate tonight. It's not my intention to attack anybody. These are good men doing what I have no doubt they've justified in their own minds everything that they've done. I'm willing to put in the past. We'll just box it up and throw it in the past. We got to move forward. We ought to fight the real war, which isn't against each other. We ought to fight the evils of socialism, entitlement, wokeness, defunding our police, a weak military, illegal immigration, corrupt government, abortion on demand, critical race theory, regulatory practices by our federal agencies that are overreaching, and an attack on our democracy through fraudulent voting practices. That's what I think we ought to be fighting. So, thank you. I'm going to answer. I'm going to say this final thing because you're going to see me. I made a commitment when I was a freshman in high school. Remember the story of Kitty Genevieve? Kitty Genevieve. Remember the story of Kitty Genevieve? I was 16 years old, so that kind of, maybe it predates you, but it was a story in New York City. A lady had been murdered on her steps of her apartment building. The guy came back and stabbed her a bunch of times. She screamed for help. She screamed for help. He left. She's laying there bleeding. He comes back, stabs her again. She screams again. He came back a third time. 30, and she died. And they found out later that 34 people heard her screams, and none of them lifted a finger. Nobody called 911. And they interviewed some of these people. It became a big deal about what's going on in New York City. Because after all, this is Idaho. It never happened in Idaho. We would go help. But in New York, that's another one. And they interviewed these people and said, why did you do that? Why didn't you? Well, I thought somebody else was going to call. I didn't want to be involved. I didn't want him to come out. They all had their reasons for not getting involved. And I was 16 years old. It was a big talk on our junior high. And I made a commitment then. If I see somebody under attack, I'm not going to turn my back. I don't care what the consequences are. I'm going to try to do the right thing. I've tried to honor that. It's got me in a lot of trouble. I could give you a list. I'll stick up for people. We didn't know these people in the Idaho Patient Act. It's got me, I'm a liberal now because I sponsored that. I helped promote. You're going to see me in trouble because I'm going to take stands against things that are untrue and people that are attacked in any way. If somebody attacks a Democrat unfairly, lies about them, I'll come to the rescue. I think we'll win the war, guys, with being honest. We'll get more under our tent. We will win this. We got the winning argument. I'm a conservative because that's the thing that works. Conservatism gives the best results. History has shown that time. That's why I'm a conservative, not because I've prescribed to some oath or something. It's what works. And we can win based on the argument. We don't have to attack the people that bring a different message. They're not the issue. So anyway, I appreciate your listening to me tonight. I'm going to switch to questions.
Thank you, Frank. I want to, appreciate Frank. I really do appreciate the story and all that. But
thank you.
And one of the key things here, and actually I know there's a lot of people, myself included, looking, and I'm going to ask everybody to stay. And Frank and I had this discussion. You should have brought your blankies and your pillows. Okay. We do have a lot of questions, and we did have a lot of people send some questions in, and Frank did say that he was going to answer them. And so it's important that he answers them to the body here. And so I do request that everybody stays. They do, and he did sort of answer some of them in what he said, but we're going to go through each one of them. He's grouped them. But they range from a variety of things, from, why did he support the lawsuit to the Republican Party? And again, why did he oppose some candidates, whatever, to even if he believes in God? Okay, so there's a big breadth of things, and he has said that he will answer each and every one of them. And so, and he's held up and he's got the list of them here. And so I think what he wants to do is he'll read them. You want to read them, right? And then each one of them, and I know what he's done here, and kind of borrow your book for just a second. Like I say, there were over 100 questions, and what he did was he took them. I'm not going to read his answers, but he grouped them because some of them are quite similar. And so he'll read. I hope what you'll do is read each question first, and then give his answer because they're pretty much the same, and go for that, and then explain why. I've told him that it would be just a quick thing. I've dealt with a lot of politicians recently. Okay, and one thing you'll see from a politician is you'll ask them a question, and they'll start explaining why before they ever answer the question, and you never get to the answer. And so I said, Frank, a lot of these are pretty straightforward, so do a yes or a no and then explain why. So I appreciate Frank taking this time, and he did warn me, we should have brought our blankies and pillows, but he obviously didn't warn some of his folks. So anyway, please bear with us and let Frank go ahead and do this is a really important part. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Well, I'm operating under Doug's authority here, and we'll do it how he's directed. He's allowed me to take these 98 questions and reorganize them in a fashion that we can get through them as quickly as we can. I'm not very short-winded. You've already figured that out. So I'll try to move right through them. First question, number 48, starting in the middle and working both directions. Why did you agree to go to Stand Up for Idaho? What's in it for you? I was invited, number one. And number two, I'd have a chance to do my best to set the record straight. Thank you for giving that to me. Next question. You asked for questions ahead of time so you could research the answers. Did you research the answers in earnest yourself, or did you have your staff do all the research on these 100 questions? You didn't say 100 questions, but I had my staff help me. But I was diligent in trying to work with them to see what the answers were. Question number 71, since you were given a platform by this group, will you help offer us a platform for others to better understand one another? Boy, I think that's great. You give me some suggestions, not tonight, but I'm happy. I think we need to have dialogue. We need to have civil discourse. We need to expose things that aren't truthful, and we need to try to do that in the most constructive way that we can. We ought to have that give and take. Why would anyone believe the answers to your questions? I hope that people who know me would answer, because he's a straight shooter and he tells it like he sees it. I hope if you talk to people who know me well personally, I hope that you'll get that answer. So I wouldn't believe me because I said you should. But I hope that those who know me would back me up in regards to the truthfulness of my approach. Thank you. As a self-described conservative, do you want to, we're already through 4 of them. So self-described, we're 25% of the way. As a self-described conservative, do you want to see Idaho move towards smaller government, lower taxes, and less regulation, or would you prefer it stay more or less static? I'd like to see less government, less of taxes, and less regulations. You give me the easy stuff. They get harder. What is the purpose of the Republican Party organization in your mind? Why does it exist? Why should people volunteer to participate? Wow. You'd have to ask the Republicans a better answer than that, but I'm grateful for the Republican Party because it gives people a home. It gives conservatives a home. I think it best describes the principles that I believe in. And I think a lot of people. I don't think that we should have to, and I've made this point, agree to every single iota, because we will never agree on everything. As Reagan said, if you agree 80% of the time, we are my friend. And so I think it gives us some commonality, people that can work together, team up, and try to save this nation. What are your thoughts on communism, socialism, fascism, authoritarianism, totalitarianism? They're all bad. Okay. They're all, I mean, for all the reasons anybody would know. I do think that extremisms on either side could be potentially really dangerous. Do you believe America is exceptional in any way? I think America is exceptional in so many ways, and if so, how? The freedoms that we enjoy, the prosperity we enjoy, the foundation, the Constitution, the protection that we have, the founding fathers, which I believe were guided to give us what we have, the methodologies that we have to change it, the fact that we can be, it was an experiment to govern yourselves, to choose your own leaders. That wasn't popular back then. And it's not real popular today. And they're trying to take it away from us, even in this country. But I think all you have to do is go to Mexico. You see how great America is. Go to Europe. The streets are clean, but you talk to the people. They've lost all incentive to work because the redistribution of wealth. I mean, you could go. I could take 2 hours on this one. If America, I'm going to question 64. If America is a democracy or republic, what's the primary difference? I believe that America is a republic, and I have to go back to Mr. Moad's class in the 7th grade to try to remember exactly what my understanding of the difference is democracy, people elect their own leaders. In a republic, we elect the leaders that elect the leaders. I think there's some strengths and weaknesses to both systems, by the way, and we're kind of, I think we've kind of become a hodgepodge of both of them. The problem with the democracy is everybody can vote. The misinformed, the foolish, the unwise. You can keep going down the list. There's no qualification. You can choose. And if they're gullible, and there's also dangers on the other side. You choose, if you get a small body in power to choose the leaders, then they become kingmakers. So I think there's problems I think there are difference, and I think America has turned out to be, meant to be a republic, turned out to be something less than that. What is your vision for the future of Idaho? What form of government do you wish to pass on to the next generation? Boy, the vision of Idaho. I hope we stay red. I hope we stay conservative. A lot of people moving in. I hope that we can get unified and set an example for the rest of the nation. I really like the fact that our leaders have governed things. We've had some good government over the years, some good governors over the years, and some good legislators who haven't spent all the money as fast as they got it in. We have a surplus. I think we can be grateful for that. They didn't spend it all. A lot of these states are way in debt, man. You should give them some applause for what they've done here for you. I don't think they're perfect. Maybe we could choose better ones, but I'm grateful for that. In the past, you have publicly characterized many of the volunteers making up the Republican Party in our country as radicals or extremists. What is your definition or criteria of those labels? Is there a specific policy or position that caused you to label local volunteers in that way? I surely don't want to give the impression that I've said everybody at the local central committee is all of that. I don't believe that for a second. I think there are a few people that might come rightfully under that definition of radicals. I think I would agree with 90-some%, like I said, of the policies, not all, but most, by far most. It's the approach that I disagree with, that I think makes people radicals. When there is absolutism, no exceptions, this is the rule, we're going to force you all in this line. I think that's name calling if you don't agree, destroy your reputation, lying about you if you don't agree. I think those are radical. I think those are radical approaches. And when I say radical, I mean people who will take radical measures, throw away ethics, throw away honor, honesty, truth to get a job done. I think, in my definition, yes, my definition, that would be my definition of radicalism. Do you buy into the GOP phrase, the right-wing extremism? Not sure if it's a GOP phrase. I don't think it's an accurate term. Right-wing extremism. I mean, that's like the far right and all of that. I don't think it's a good definition. So I guess I don't buy into that definition. I don't think it defines very well what really is happening. How do you define extremism? These are all grouped. I think I just answered that. You have accused the BRCC of pushing a radical agenda. This is all under the same grouping. Please be specific. What is this agenda and what parts of it are radical? I think when you claim that you're when you as a tiny committee, one of, I don't know how many committees there are, but dozens of committees in the state of Idaho, and you take the position of you're the official Republican Party and you're going to endorse people in the primary after you promised that you wouldn't. I think that's a pretty radical, and you're going to disobey federal law and violate federal law to do that. I think that's a pretty radical agenda. What are your thoughts on globalists? Are they good or bad? I think they're horribly dangerous principle. What purpose are they trying to achieve? I think they're trying to rule the world. Trying to make us all kowtow to whatever liberalism. I think it's an awful deal. Am I being direct enough with my answers, Doug? Do you support globalism and climate change? No. All you have to do is go back a few years and see how I fought the windmills that were going to move into Wolverine Canyon. I got notified. I mean, it was all in the news. We fought and we kept them out of these beautiful forested canyons. We kept the windmills out of there. I was too late. They already had like a bunch up before we even knew what was going on. So we didn't, and they'd already had them approved before we knew what was happening. I think the subsidies, the cost versus benefit. I'm not opposed to it if it works. I'm all for it. I'd be like 100, but so far they haven't got good solutions that really work. That's why they have to subsidize them so much. Do you support globalism and climate change? Do I support it? Like, does that mean? No, I don't support globalism and I don't support climate change. I think you probably mean, do I support the theory? I don't think there's much argument that the Earth's getting warmer. I mean, I think that there's some pretty good data. I don't think there's much evidence at all that man is creating it. The climate has fluctuated over the years from ice ages when there were no men and no women. I don't mean to be gender specific. I'm pretty sure they came together. They got that kind of mixed up today, but there were neither. The climate has changed. There's some things that happen that I think they leave out of the forest fires, dump a whole lot of carbon dioxide. They talk about a coal plant that doesn't produce 1/10 in a year, won't produce one fraction of amount of carbon that one forest fire will put. They don't, and in their practices of keeping people out of the forest, you can't manage the forest, can't have cows graze in the grass, which by the way would prevent forest fires or at least reduce them. All of that stuff, a bunch of nonsense. I think we ought to get active on it. What do you think are the greatest threats to America right now? Intolerance or globalism? And they've circled a deal here where I said that I was in support of protecting the rights of gay individuals. By the way, the Obama campaign said I'm a gay basher, which I'm not. I would protect the rights of gay people and all people. I think everybody has the same rights as each other. I would not defend them from teaching our children about it at all. I wouldn't defend them introducing those concepts to little kids. I would defend their right to live in peace. I would defend their right to privacy. I'd like them to keep it private, honestly. And they sure shouldn't be exposing that stuff to little kids or into that garbage. The same thing with transgender things. I think there may be some other questions in here. I'll get to them about that. The Great Reset, elites rule the world. Is that what you want for your grandchildren? Do you think that they'll be in the elites? I mean, you have to talk to some of my kids. Some of my kids are living in poverty we said, well, come on, Frank. No, we've got this rules. I've seen so many generations ruined by wealth. And so Belinda and I have talked about, we don't pass our wealth to our kids. We'll help them with their education. We'll do a little bit of matching later on in their lives, depending on what they've done with their lives. But some of the kids, I'm hoping that they'll live an honorable life. But no, we don't pass on the wealth to the kids. They got to make it on their own. If we give it to them, they've lost the whole purpose of life. We think we have some responsibilities with those. I doubt if my kids will be. I hope that people don't consider us as the elites, Belinda and me. I hope we're not. Hope we don't measure up to that definition or measure down to it. Should wealthy businessmen and corporations control the legislature or the citizenry? I think there's only one right answer to that. I think I got the answer figured out. Absolutely not. Of course they shouldn't. I think that throughout history, whoever's had the wealth has had influence, for better or for worse. We're not going to be able to change that. As much as we might dislike it, we're not going to be able, we take their wealth away. That's the liberal stance. We should take it and give it to these other guys. But they're going to have influence. And I think it's a part of the test. Do they measure up? And by the way, Elon Musk, I think, has done some pretty good things recently with Twitter. And people that have, who else could have done it? He's using it for good. Hopefully we'll get some other people in that stream that start doing some stuff for good. So I think if you've got wealth, you're responsible for what you did, and you're held. I think you'll be held accountable in this life or the next life, one of the two. No, I don't think that they'll control the legislature or the citizenry. And by the way, if we make if we supported things, we helped Lawrence Wasden, right? I don't think he'd have come. I think that Rourke would have won if we hadn't got involved. We made a rule. He's off limits. We can't talk to him. Can't call him on the phone. Can't visit his office. The most I would do is walk by and wave, maybe shake his hand at an event. Okay. That was our rule for a decade. He's off limits. If we help somebody, that's our internal rule. We don't do it very often, but they're not somebody you can't. You can't. That's at least that's our rule. So no, I don't think you should. Do you support Article 4? Yes.
Just to be clear, Frank, there are two questions there. Do you think it's a good thing to use money to buy favor?
Where's that one at? What number is it?
18.
Oh. Did I miss?
I'm using a copy that he gave.
Oh, I missed 2. I'm sorry, I missed 2 at the bottom. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay, there's 3 on yours.
Yeah, well, it's because you
Okay, all right,
have yours
okay, all right.
formatted.
Okay, good. Thank you for keeping me. Say, do you think it's a good thing to use money to buy favor? I think I kind of just answered that by accident. Absolutely not. Unless it's giving your wife the credit card. Do you believe the elite and wealthy should rule the world? I kind of answered that too. They shouldn't, but it's kind of been that way. Either because they earned their wealth or they got wealth through being in office through a dictatorship. And should it be that way? Oh, of course not. Of course not. We should hold them accountable. I don't know what to do about it other than take it away from them and give it to the other guys who will also ruin the world. Do you support, now I'm in 52 now.
Article 5 convention.
Do you support an Article 5 convention? If you do not support an Article 5 convention, would you defend the Constitution and help defeat efforts to have an Article 5 convention? I had to look up to see what a Article 5 convention was. I had to learn, and I went to my staff. So it's a method for those who don't know. How many know what an Article 5 convention is? Okay, well, I'm with about 3/4 of this room. I didn't know. It's some methodology. I'm still not clear to speed up changes, amendments to the Constitution. From what I understand about it, I'm not for it at all. I think you need to be, we have a process to amend the Constitution. I think it was given a lot of wisdom. I think we should be careful, very careful when we amend that document. So I don't think I would support it. Do you support the Convention of States initiative? Please explain why or why not. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Do you mind me? I can.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
An Article 5 convention is a method of, in theory, where the states can get together and decide to change the Constitution. The theory behind it is, and our Constitution actually occurred by a convention of states, if you will. And what happens on an Article 5 convention, if you read the Article 5 actually in the Constitution, it opens this base, it essentially opens the Constitution as written up for full revision.
So they're asking, do you support the Convention of States initiative? Is that the same thing?
Yeah, the Convention of States initiative is an initiative to go out and cause an Article 5 convention. And the premise of that is that you can control what is being changed in the Constitution. And that is the concern of those that oppose a convention of states, is that once you open up the Constitution for revision, there's no way to control it. And the first convention of states, actually, if you read history and look at it, our Constitution occurred because of a convention of states. And what happened was the original Constitution was thrown out and redone. And so the issue is with the Convention of States initiative is to go out and cause an Article 5 convention, which would, in theory, some will say, will open up the Constitution for complete revision. And the argument for not having that is, do you trust your politicians now? No. Then why would you trust them when you had to have a convention of states?
So I'm with you on that, Doug.
Okay.
So, yeah, I like what he said.
I've learned a thing over the last little while, so.
Well, these people are asking these questions. Expect me to be a lot more better informed in some pretty deep stuff than I am. Are you willing to support efforts to rein in federal power overreach? Yes. Should we pursue a path limiting the federal government agencies only to those powers enumerated with the Constitution of the United States? Please list the agencies you believe are working well beyond those powers given them in the Constitution. Want me to give you the list of agencies that are overreaching? FTC, the IRS, the EPA, the Department of Education, the FDA, the CDC, and I'm sure the list goes on. They're way overreaching. They said, they taught us back in high school, the way you make laws is either the Senate or the House will introduce a law. They both have to agree to it. They pass it, and then it goes to the president. And then if the president signs it into law, it becomes law. That's not how our laws are made. Right now, federal agencies are making laws one after another. Trump did a good job. He did away with a lot of them. And Biden put them back in. So, I think it's dangerous. Linda and I were invited to a conference with Kevin McCarthy, about a month ago. Spend a weekend with him and 8 other couples on a ranch up in Montana, and we spent a couple of days together. He was going through the agenda. If he gets power, and it looks like I don't know if he's going to become the leader or the Speaker of the House or not, but he said if he did, then that was one of the things he was going to focus on. But I think he needs the Senate support to get it done, I'm afraid. But I liked what he was saying. Do you support a COVID-19? Question 34. Who would? But yeah, I mean, they do, but no. One part of the Republican Party platform states that we believe in adherence to the U.S. This next one is a statement, not a question. Okay, so let me get to the question. Do you mind if I jump to the question, or you want me to read the whole statement?
That's it.
They're talking about.
Let's be fair to the writer, and if you can.
I'll try to abridge. Many examples come to mind, but are not limited to a nationwide and state vaccine mandate, complete with medical misinformation, the issuance of numerous executive orders, of keeping our state under the declaration of emergency for nearly 2 years in order to keep receiving federal dollars and egregious strings attached. My opinion is that many Idaho elected officials from the governor on down either participated in carrying out these examples or did not fully stand in the way of them being implemented. How's the question? That was not the question. That was the statement. Do you see any of the issues outlined here as problems, and or do you see any different ones over the last couple of years that you would like to comment on? I'll tell you what, the science on this last deal was bogus. It was awful. It was. If we did not learn how unscientific science is, and we're just supposed to go, if we didn't learn to mistrust those opinions, it's really did a disservice because we don't know what to trust now. If I knew the science was good, if I knew that we were really going to die from this, and if I knew that if we didn't, I don't know, and if I knew this vaccine was safe, and I knew that it was going to prevent, masses from dying, I'd step right up. But they didn't know that. We sure as heck don't know that today. I'm reluctant to criticize those who were also fed, those government officials who were fed misinformation. We consulted, Belinda and I consulted like heavily with our doctors. We had pretty good doctors, spent a lot of time with us. I'm reticent to criticize people who are operating on information that they had at the time, and which, I mean, I don't know what I would have done in that situation. So I know there's a lot of criticism for Governor Little. I haven't joined in that because I can't be an expert in everything. We could probably get somebody better. I don't know. But I'm reluctant to criticize. I don't doubt that I know that in our own county, there was a lot of people hitting on our county commissioners and whatever. There was a health group, I don't know the name. And these are good men. I know they agonized over the decision. They weren't trying to stiff people. I mean, they weren't trying to they were looking at the science. They were responsible. They tried to make right decisions under the circumstances. See, when you don't have truth, you make bad decisions. That's what the great thing about truth. They didn't have the truth. And I think that's where we ought to focus. We ought to focus on the folks that are divvying out the truth so that our elected officials can make better decisions. I think we should be reluctant to criticize them for basing their decisions. It's easy to say, yeah, they were trying to get funds. They were trying to do this. I don't know. I don't have a position on it because I'm not in their shoes. I was a listener to KID 590 radio during the time of your air battles with Attorney Brian Smith, and you were vehemently defended your employees from his egregious medical debt tactics. Regardless of your view of Mr. Smith, do you feel the same way about defending your employees against any egregious medical procedures like vaccine mandates or COVID virus? Yes. Yes. That is an ineffective inoculation and it's violation of the Medical Privacy Act. Yes, we did. We didn't have any of our employees be vaccinated. Do you think it's... Yeah. Nor would I, nor do I think we should. Do you think it is okay to require employees to disclose or have proof of vaccination from any virus or pathogen as employment prerequisite and for continued employment with any organization? And why? No, I don't, especially for what we know now. I give some ands, ifs, or buts to that. If I knew it was work, if I knew it was safe, I might feel differently about it. We didn't know that. It was untested, and we didn't because we thought it was wrong. So even though it was advocated that some companies did, we didn't, and we stand by that. Are you aware of 2 COVID vaccine studies that have come out? And then she talks about these studies. I'll skip down a little bit. Are you aware that Dr. Robert Malone, creator of the mRNA technology, is stating that lipid nanoparticles of the mRNA COVID vaccine are collecting in the ovaries of women and bone marrow and lymph nodes at a concentrated rate and not breaking down naturally as pushers of the vaccine led to the population to believe? Do you have any comments on these findings? I don't have any comments. I don't know if they're true or not. I don't know. It's a crazy situation we're in, but I don't have any comments. I don't know. If that's true, it's dangerous. It's horrible what they did to us. If it's not true, it's probably not something to be worried about. I don't know. So much misinformation. Do you support LGBTQ? Do you also support drag queens performing in front of children? I think I kind of already answered this. I believe that every human being, whether they agree with me or not, has the right to privacy. What they do in their own bedroom is none of my business. I would protect their right. Do I support what they do? Do I want my children involved? No. Do I want them introducing it to my children? No. Or the grandchildren, or anybody's children. I would protect children. I think as adults, we're probably okay to know about stuff without affecting our lives. I have seen the devastation that lifestyle does to families. I've seen it. And to the individuals involved in it. I don't judge them for it. And by the way, I'll say this. I do know this much about it. I've spent quite a bit of time on this topic. I think I got pretty educated. People who think they choose their sexual attraction, they don't. Maybe, I don't know why they have a sexual. Fortunately, I didn't have that one. We all have sexual attractions. Well, if we're fortunate, we do. We're responsible for what we do with them. I think they are too. But for people to believe that that's a choice, that's not a choice. People that I've talked to, and I know some of them, some of the very good people, agonize over this situation. And I would protect their right to live in peace. And so does that mean support them? I don't support them going public with it, trying to coerce others. I will defend their right to live in peace and not being judged. Do I support drag queens performing in front of children? No. Crazy, stupid. No. Why would you? I mean, if you're trying to promote, I don't know what you're doing. What are you doing? I don't know what you're doing. I guess as long as I don't know you're a drag queen, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think they ought to be judged. And if they want to change things about, but I don't think they ought to be making a pitch to the kids. I don't. Do you support gender reassignment and the use of puberty blockers in children? Absolutely not. Without any recourse. Sorry for those who have offended. No, they don't know what they're doing. And they're too young to be making that kind of a decision. Do you support the SCOTUS protecting, giving special? Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Just one clarification, and I'm going to hold you to each question. Is that the one question you sort of mentioned it was, do you believe public funds should be paid for drag queens, which we've seen, and should this practice carry criminal penalties?
Didn't mean to miss that. Do you believe funds should be used to pay for drag queen shows in front of children? No. Do you think this practice should carry criminal penalties? I don't know why you would support something like that. But I don't know the answer to that. I don't know about criminal penalties, but supporting public funds there, maybe. I don't think you should. No. Do you support gender reassignment and the use of puberty blockers? I said this already. No. Do you support the SCOTUS protecting, giving special rights to the LGBTQ community in the name of love and acceptance? Special rights, no, but the same rights as everybody else has, yes. Do you support critical race theory being taught in schools? Absolutely not. I think it's horribly dangerous. I think it's horribly wrong. And I think the people who claim it doesn't happen in the critical race theory, I've had lots of discussions, no, I think it's damaging to turn people away against each other because of race or suggest that everything is based on race. And I think that some of those theories, no, I don't think they ought to be taught in school. You want to talk about that in college, then you go right ahead, but not in elementary schools and not even in high schools, in my opinion. How about just teach reading, writing, and arithmetic, the 3 R's? That's what we should be teaching. What happened to school anyway? Do you support the 1619 project? My understanding of 1619 project is a project that they want to rewrite history. They want to say what happened. They want to rewrite. They want to make the founders of our nation bad people. They want to destroy the foundation. I think the foundation of a nation or a religion or an organization, the foundation is important because that's what everything else stands on. And if you destroy that, then you can destroy the nation if you destroy the foundation. I think our founding fathers need to be protected. They were not perfect men. They lived at a different time. I would not protect some of their practices, but my goodness, they left us with some really good things. And those who fight, those who want to destroy their reputation, are benefiting from the very rules of freedom that they established. And those things, you go to another country, those things aren't available in other countries. Those freedoms don't exist in a lot of these other countries. And to destroy the very people who gave you, established the freedoms that we live in, have given us this great country, I think is inherently dangerous. Do you support the removal of obstruction of any historical statues or monuments? No. No, I think it's part of the whole thing. Destroying the heritage, and then you destroy the nation. Do you support the rights of people to choose their schools and for which schools their children attend? Absolutely. What can be done to help them financially with this choice? Well, probably lots of things. Belinda and I, we, if you know the American Heritage Charter School, we remodeled the school. We donated all those buildings. We paid for those buildings. I don't know how many students I got. I think it's kids. How many kids in the school? 500 kids. You know? Huh? How much? Close to 500 kids in that school. Really proud of. We don't have anything to do. I mean, that's a school that teaches the foundation, the heritage of our nation. I'm really proud of that. So that's what you can do. That's what we did do. That's what we have done. Would you support an educational tax credit bill on an education savings account? I'm moving quickly, guys. We're getting through them. Savings account that would help parents send their children to the school of their choice. Possibly, depending on how it worked. I think I'm a huge proponent of education, teaching kids what school's supposed to teach them, and finding they surely should have the tax credits to the same amount that public schools have. Do you think having money means a person is smart? I've seen a lot of people that got money that aren't very smart, so I'd say no. Do you think that having a degree from college means a person is smart? In today's world, having a college degree may mean the opposite. Especially, I mean, you got to give them money to pay the student. What does that tell? Is that not a diagram of the school? The school promised you, if you go to college, get a college education, you're going to get a great job, make all this money. Guess who's out of money? The people who went to college. We got to give them the subsidy. We don't give the subsidy to the people who didn't go to college. I think that they ought to hold colleges accountable. They have talk about a Ponzi scheme. They say, spend your money here. It's a couple $100,000, whatever it is. Then you go back out and you don't make any money because they forgot to tell you that, whatever it is, Greek mythology, probably not going to have a lot of jobs available for them. And I think that schools ought to have, I really do. I think that there's a law that ought to be passed. It ought to be hold colleges. They ought to have full disclosure. As a business person, we offer a business opportunity. They require us to give full disclosure. I mean, tell them exactly what the average is that people make and all of this stuff. And if you don't, then you're making false income claims. They ought to do the same thing with college. I'm all support of it. They ought to say, you know what? If you take this education, here's what you're going to be qualified to do when you get out of school. Here's what they get paid. Here's how many jobs are available right now. That'll do that. We're going to qualify, and we'll take responsibility. If we passed you, you'll be qualified to do it. And this is the odds that you'll get one of those jobs. They're not doing that. They teach kids at 18 years, they have no idea. You go spend this fortune. Okay, my answer is getting too long, Doug. I'm going to shorten it. Got me riled. All right. Do you think people, I know a lot of really, really, really good people. And I know a few that may not qualify for that. I do think that if you walked in somebody's moccasins, if you really knew them from the inside, you would learn to love them. Every one of them, I believe that. If you knew them, how they see themselves. To say that they're inherently good, I don't know about that. But I think people want to see themselves that way. Do you believe that if you're in a position that do you think if you are in a position you should make people be good or do the right thing? I don't think you should make people do much of anything. Certainly not to be good. That did the best I could with that question. I'm not sure I understand it. What is the best, highest thing to attain here on earth? Think of that a lot at 74 years old. I think the highest thing you could attain on earth is being at the latter stage of your life, looking back on your life, saying, or maybe in the mirror, look at the person in the mirror and saying, I know you. I know everything about you. I know everything you've ever done. I know every thought you've ever had. I know every mistake you've ever made, and I know what you've done to correct those things. And because of that, I like you and I trust you. I think that'd be the ultimate. And that'd be the best thing, the highest thing we could attain on this earth. How do you define success? What I just told you. Do you believe in God? Absolutely. Do you believe in Jesus Christ as our Savior? I don't know. I don't have a position on it because I'm not in their shoes. I was a listener to KID 590 radio during the time of your air battles with Attorney Brian Smith, and you were vehemently defended your employees from his egregious medical debt tactics. Regardless of your view of Mr. Smith, do you feel the same way about defending your employees against any egregious medical procedures like vaccine mandates or COVID virus? Yes. Yes. That is an ineffective inoculation and it's violation of the Medical Privacy Act. Yes, we did. We didn't have any of our employees be vaccinated. Do you think it's? Yeah. Nor would I. Nor do I think we should. Do you think it is okay to require employees to disclose or have proof of vaccination from any virus or pathogen as employment prerequisite and for continued employment with any organization, and why? No, I don't, especially for what we know now. I give some ands, ifs, or buts to that. If I knew it was work, if I knew it was safe, I might feel differently about it. We didn't know that. It was untested, and we didn't because we thought it was wrong. So even though it was advocated that some companies did, we didn't, and we stand by that. Are you aware of 2 COVID vaccine studies that have come out? And then she talks about these studies. I'll skip down a little bit. Are you aware that Dr. Robert Malone, creator of the mRNA technology, is stating that lipid nanoparticles of the mRNA COVID vaccine are collecting in the ovaries of women and bone marrow and lymph nodes at a concentrated rate and not breaking down naturally as pushers of the vaccine led to the population to believe? Do you have any comments on these findings? I don't have any comment. We aren't exposed to it. We've never talked about it in any management meeting. We're not asked to be.
Just 2 comments. One is, according to my list, you might have skipped a few.
Okay.
Okay.
I could have.
But I would recommend on just.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I did.
Yeah, but on your answer that you had there, I would recommend that you go research what ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance scores to deal with and how it affects individuals. And in fact, the state of Idaho just this summer, their ESG score was lowered by Standard & Poor's, I believe it was, because of some of their policies. So it's actually a scoring system that is actually being pushed to be able to basically affect your credit scores and things like that based on your environmental, social, and governance behavior. So,
and what I've heard about it, I'm not sure if I'm accurately informed, it affects public companies more than it affects private companies.
it affects individuals too.
Okay.
It's actually designed to go down and affect individuals. So I would just recommend that you go look that up or study it a little bit further.
Great, thank you, Doug.
You bet.
Do you think it's, here's, I didn't mean to skip this, but do you think it's a breach of a contract to break a commandment if you have, or break a commandment if you have good reason? No. Do you think, some of these are pretty quick. Do you think that it's better to have self-control or control over others? Let me think about that. Surely to have self-control. Some of these are obvious. I don't think we have any right to control others. We can influence others. We can try to lead them, guide them, reason with them, but we don't have a right to control them. Are you aware of the CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency, which is an all-digital currency using blockchain technology, and its current proposal by the U.S. Federal Bank to begin a rollout program called MyFedNow in the spring of 2023 to replace the paper dollar as our U.S. currency? Are you, I've heard of it, I'm not very aware of it. Are you aware that in this rollout is the potential ability to peer into every banking institution that participates with FDIC and every transaction of its account holders? Are you aware that this power can be used to limit purchase of goods and services that are deemed to be against a narrative and a policy that is set and controlled by those in charge? What are your comments towards a digital currency, and do you have any view? I think those who get involved with digital currency is going to lose their shorts. There's nothing, by the way, the U.S. government doesn't have anything backing its currency either, other than the U.S. government. I think that's a better deal than having absolutely nothing behind it. Yes. Did I skip again?
No, this one was one, and I think it's pretty short. Do you think it is better to take care of others or to teach them to take care of themselves?
Did I miss that? Oh, there it is. Do you think it's better to take care of others or to teach them to take care of themselves? Easy, take care of themselves. I like the easy ones. As a delegate to the Idaho, we're almost, we're more than halfway. I'm going, guys. As a delegate to the Idaho GOP convention 2 years ago, I was sitting in the committee next to other delegates who suddenly received emails from a name that they did not recognize. Those from Bonneville County did recognize your name, but we never got the emails. That bothered some of the delegation representing Bonneville County who felt as if they were being undermined behind their backs by someone in their own county. Why did you send emails to all delegates except the ones from your own county? This is when I had to go to my people. I had to ask, what did we send an email to everybody? My intention with everybody. It was really hard to get the total list. They sent it to everybody's address that we had. I'm sure we missed. They say they did the best they could. The list was supposedly really private. They worked really hard to get as many referral lists as they could. If we missed somebody, it was by accident. It was not by intent. Have you ever attended a meeting of the GOP Central Committee in Bonneville County? No, I have not. Do you know who your neighborhood precinct officer is? Yes, it's Nick Contos. Have you ever reached out to him or met with him? Have you ever reached out to him or her about the Republican Party in our county? Yeah, I've met with him. Met with Nick. We've had discussions. He's been in my office. We've talked. He's in my ward, my LDS ward also. You published a list of GOP primary candidates that you endorsed back in May. What do you look for in a candidate? How much time did you spend researching those candidates that you endorsed? Answer the first question first. What do I look for? Honesty, brightness, good intentions, a fighter, but a unifier. That's what I look for. Did I do my own research? I have a team of people that advise me. And no, do I know have I met everybody myself? No, I haven't. Have I done like my own, like looking into their backgrounds? No, I haven't. I rely on my team. Sometimes they get it right, and I admit sometimes they get it wrong. In May, did you interview on East Idaho News? You did an interview on East Idaho News in which you accused the Central Committee of being composed of people who literally lie, cheat, and steal. Do you regret those harsh words for the volunteers who make up the local GOP in any way? Do you have any explanation or details about those specific accusations? I think I've given the explanations and the details in my long diatribe talk here. Do I regret those harsh words for the volunteers? It is not my intent to label every single member of the committee. I want to be really clear. And if anybody took it that way, I want to apologize to them. I didn't mean every single person in that committee would qualify for that. And I think I've already covered the other point. You did an interview with East Idaho News where you said the Bonneville County Republicans have been hijacked by a bunch of radicals. They lie, cheat, and steal. I think they're talking about the same interview. Called them this clique of kingmakers and said this little faction attacks anyone who disagrees with them. Why did you say these things, and do you stand behind saying those things? I think I've answered that pretty clearly. Have you read the Republican Party platform? If so, what portions do you agree or disagree with? Yeah, I think we're talking about, I don't know, we're talking about the Idaho Republican Party platform? I'm guessing. I've read it since I got the question. I would say that I agree with 95% of it. I think that some seem pretty extreme to me. Well, we ought to go back to the gold standard. I think that ship has sailed. I don't think we can get back there. I don't know how we ever could. I wish we had never left it. I think we should have. I think to take the country there and say, we're going to go there regardless of the results. I think you had to take a look and see what the consequences of that are now. I think it's a lofty goal that somebody didn't think through very well. And am I for what they did? No. Pretty tough one. You spend the rest of your life trying to get that done. Don't think it's going to happen. There might be some better solutions. The absolute position on abortion, that's a tough one. Under no circumstances. I am absolutely against abortion. They're using it, they've been using it as birth control. I think it's absolutely inherently wrong. I wish I knew what happened to the spirit of the baby. If they have another chance, can get another body someplace else. If I knew that, and somebody was a victim of rape and they had to go through their life knowing that they were the result of something that was as disgusting as that, and they're the result of that. I'm not sure what that would do to a kid that knew that, or to his mother who looks at him every time and remembers that experience. I don't know. I wish I knew the answer. I think it's tough to be that absolute in our position. I think it's tough. I also think that we will not expand the tent large enough to win any election if we take that firm approach. It might be the right, but we will lose the nation. Now, I don't know, is that right? To save the nation on that principle? Probably, because if we don't save the nation, there's going to be tons of abortions. So I don't know how to answer that. Abolish the 17th Amendment. That's one of the things, the 16th Amendment, do away with income tax. I think it's a tough one. Would I like it? I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure. I'm one of the top taxpayers in this state. Pretty sure Belinda and I are. I'd like to see the taxes reduced. It's quite a bit. Thought about giving you a number, and I thought I better not. But I like to get rid of those taxes too. I think we need to be careful with what we do. There's consequences for all these absolute positions. I think we need, and some of them are pretty extreme. But 95%, 98% of what's in there, I would agree with. Do you support the Idaho Republican Party platform in its entirety? If not, which I think that's the same question. It was the second time it was asked. Do you say you're a Republican, tout truth and honesty? However, your support of dishonest candidates, for example, Josh Wheeler, who voted Democrat, but will not admit it even when he presented with evidence, and those who don't support Republican principles make it very clear to you that you are not a friend of liberty. Are you really Republican, and do you support Republican principles? Kind of think I've answered that. In regards to Josh Wheeler, I know there were a lot of there are a lot of attacks on him. We had the Fraternal Order of Police. A lot of the folks we sent out had a different opinion of him. I know that opinion wasn't in favor of him. Part of it was the person he's running against. Sometimes you endorse one candidate because of the alternative. I did rely on my staff for that endorsement. I don't know either Chad Christensen or Josh Wheeler personally. I don't know. I don't have a position. I relied on folks that I trusted to advise on that. I attended a Republican convention event at your horse arena. I'm going to jump to the question. I, as a conservative libertarian myself, feel that there's a large fracture currently within the Idaho Republican Party regarding whether a candidate or an elected official will stick to and follow the stated Idaho Republican Party platform or just ignore it, even though they are members of the party. Do you have any comments on this? I suppose I do. I think it's dangerous. I've just said some things that I can't, like in the platform, that I think you got to be careful of. I want to elect officials that will use their own good judgment. Not necessarily, I don't think the Republican Party is a religion that we should swear an oath to. Their folks got together, they agreed on some language, and they're going to tell me what to believe and what to stand for. I'm not going to give that power to anybody else other than my own conscience, my relationship with God. And I'm not going to... And I'm going to try to elect people who will be good people, bright people, who will study the issues and make good decisions. That's whether, not because they swore an oath to a certain ideology that not probably anybody in the planet could agree with 100%, because there's always differences in opinion. And we could hold them accountable all day long. But I think we make a big error when we give our own beliefs up to somebody else to tell us what to believe. I think and so that's my comments on that. What do you think about, sorry, I don't want to interrupt any applause. What do you think about the Bonneville GOP asking GOP primary candidates to concur in writing with a conservative platform or state which positions they disagree with? I'm okay with asking them what they agree to and what they agree with and what they don't. I found this to be asking for transparency, which is not a witch hunt. You're right. Accusations of being a rhino can be unfair, but if a candidate really were more Democrat than Republican, just wanted to run more as under a more credible banner, I would want to know in order to be an informed voter. I would agree with that. What is your motivation? So ask them. Let them. But then don't label them a rhino because they didn't agree with every single period and abbreviation or whatever. Don't attack them. That's what they're waiting to do. That's why I think these people are reluctant to do it, because they know they're going to be attacked by one of the organizations that I've pointed out here. They're going to give it a bad score because somebody else, and people trust that. And I would call on the Idaho Freedom Foundation. I'm talking to you guys now. If you're watching, be more honest. Don't attack people unfairly. Don't label them as rhinos or liberals or Democrats because they don't agree to your particular brand of conservatism. You can be fair, tell them what you disagree with, but the labels, we need to stop, because we'll alienate almost everybody in the party if you put them up, except for the handful of whatever 6 or 7 candidates that you're trying to promote, which most people won't, as proven in the last primary election. We need a broader tent. We need not alienate each other. What do you think about the Bonneville? Okay, that was that question. Why did you agree to pay for the lawsuit Tom Suna had against the Bonneville County Republican Party? I already answered that. Did you not know that the BRC party had not done anything unlawful? The reason this person is saying that, I'm guessing because they were informed by the committee themselves that they hadn't done anything unlawful. That was not what the judge thought about it. And it got dismissed again because they asked themselves to have it, the lawsuit dropped. I've answered that. How large and how well coordinated is the group of people in our county that had prior knowledge to the aggressive lawsuit that was filed against the Bonneville County Republican Party in the vault? So how long was the group of people? I have no idea. I know that my attorneys consulted with me. I did not consult with the partier, Tom Luna, myself. My understanding is he was looking for ways to pay for something that he thought should happen. I have no idea how many people he talked to. We didn't talk to any other party about it, other than legal counsel to see what their opinion of what was going on and what the evidence was. And we did that. We did our own due diligence of what was going on before. I didn't personally, but my legal team did. They're really good guys. They're really smart. They're really on it. They had no axe to grind. And they consulted with their outside legal counsel, some pretty bright folks in Washington, D.C., before they advised me that it was a legitimate case. We didn't talk to anybody else other than our own attorneys. Have you stated and I don't know who else promised to pay. I don't know. We stepped up and we said we did. We would. We haven't got the bill. Maybe somebody else paid. I don't know. I don't know. But we haven't seen the bill yet. You have stated the BCRCC was pursuing illegal actions in vetting candidates. What parts of their actions do you consider illegal? I've answered that. Be specific. I have been specific. If they were illegal, should criminal charges be pursued? This is an interesting question. I don't want to misspeak here. We have not pursued criminal charges. My understanding is that at least 2 other parties outside of us, and I don't personally have knowledge of who that is, have asked it to be reviewed on a federal level. I am not part of that. I haven't participated in that. My understanding is, it's not my expectation. I don't know whether that's going to go anywhere or not. We have not pursued any criminal charges. My understanding is others have. Yes.
Sorry, just a clarification. The way I read the question
Yes, sir.
is that was the pursuing and actions in vetting candidates. And the way I read that is to, quiz the candidate, do whatever, things like that. Is that illegal? Not, this would be separate from the flyer that went out.
Good point. Good point. Yes. Was pursuing you have stated BCRCC was pursuing illegal actions in vetting candidates for elected office prior to the meeting. That was never our position. I don't think vetting candidates. No, that wasn't illegal. Yeah, that was not the illegal part. Just because someone runs as a Republican, does that not mean that they have the same beliefs and goals as the party? Just because someone runs as a Republican does not mean that they have the same beliefs as the goals of the party. The BCRCC vetted candidates and decided they were the ones best represented the Republican Party. They were not the only county to do that. Why would you get involved in a lawsuit that only targeted one county when others were doing the same thing? Well, number one, because we're in Bonneville County, because they used our funds to support a federal candidate. But we probably, and because, I don't know, but my understanding is it was not against the other bylaws. The promise was, they promised they wouldn't spend the other people's money on the primary. That was in their bylaws. Promise they made in order to get money in. And then after they got the money in, they violated the promise and spent money on the primaries against some of the same people, against the wishes of the people who donated, and in violation of their own promise, in a violation of their own bylaws. I don't think the other counties, I could be wrong. My understanding, the other counties didn't have that in their bylaws, hadn't made that promise. That's my understanding of why the GOP didn't go after them. Can't vouch for that, didn't read their bylaws, but that's my understanding. Abortion, critical race theory, white privilege are the Democrat platform radical left topics. Why do you donate to candidates to support these views? Interesting. Somebody bought into the narrative, right? You're a Democrat, you're a liberal. I think we've answered that. I think I've answered that pretty much hands down. Continues. Why did you donate to Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama? They bought into the narrative. Never donated to Hillary Clinton. Made a $250 donation to Barack Obama when we did $26 million to somebody else, to other candidates. But that's how, okay, they bought into the narrative. So you tell the narrative, you get people to buy in, you discredit that voice, you understand. It works. I don't understand. I know. I must have. Can I see your list, Doug? See if you got the same thing I got. Okay, 43, 81, then 51. Okay, so here it is. So I'm good. When did you make or endorse candidates? Do you research them yourself or do you rely on your staff? Answered that. I rely on my staff. Sometimes sometimes I have the time to research my own, but I pretty much rely on my staff, and they're really good. They don't get it right all the time. I'm sure I wouldn't get it right all the time either. Do you support President Trump? Okay. I really support the policies. I really like the Supreme Court. I really like his that he took on the press. I like all of those things. I don't like his arrogance. I don't like his propensity to tell untruths, exaggerate. I don't like his pompous. I don't like the fact that he attacks little old ladies and war heroes and anybody that disagrees with him. I don't like that. I think he would have won the last election if he hadn't done that. I think people were in favor of his policies, but he gave them so much fodder to hate him because he attacked. He was just always on the attack. So, you know, I talked to these people. I've talked to Mike Pence. I've talked to Donald Trump Jr. sat in my office, and I said, "Is there any way he's doing damage to the party? He's doing damage. I'm afraid he's not going to get reelected if he just creates so much." When you attack others, you create hatred towards yourself. It comes back. And so I don't like that about Donald Trump. I don't. I like the policies he instituted. I think we could have got the same policies without all the hatred. I really do. Okay, I expect to be attacked on that, by the way. We'll wait for the attacks to start, but that's how I feel. This is the head of the organization that VanderSloot funds. Somebody might want to ask him if he agrees with supporting such lewd and obnoxious individual. And then I'm not going to read this. This is a quote by Alex LeBeau, who wrote some really, really horribly obscene language. I don't know I heard about this when it happened. And I will say this. I think they should have, this is from the, the IACI, that's from IACI. So he heads up IACI. I knew that, I just couldn't remember the name for a second. They should have terminated him on the spot. I know he'll find out I said that. We're members of IACI. I don't think there's any place for it. And I think it hurt the organization. I don't agree with everything IACI does, but I'm sorry, Alex, there's no place for it. I don't know what he did about it. I don't know if he apologized, but there's just no. So that's my thoughts on that. I don't think anybody should be supported in any credible leaders that use the kind of language that he made in here. I suspect, I don't know. I don't think it could be more clear. Yes, did I miss one?
Make sure that we're on the same page here. Did you get this one?
No. Well, there it is. I missed it. What do you think of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis? I think he's going to continue on as the governor of Florida. That's what I think.
That's his big
I think he's somebody to pay attention to. I think he may be somebody we're looking for leadership. We're going to watch him. I like a lot of things. I don't know, everything about him. He's done a lot of good for Florida. It looks like he can throw a big blanket because he got some of the folks in the middle, and he did it with standing up for what he thought was right. Did I miss another one?
Yeah, it's a long-winded one, and maybe just
Oh,
down to,
yeah. Which one is it?
Some people did go to a lot of effort to, write a bunch of reasoning why they asked the question B59.
Over the years, you have been an influencer and a political and philanthropy donor to various causes that have benefited the great community. Now you're involved with Mitt Romney's presidential campaign and more recently donated to Governor Little's election campaign. Previously, I participated and believed in voting for the GOP candidates as the best choice. Okay, I'm trying to get to the question. I do not understand how our state senators and representatives can vote yes to a bill that basically sent an open checkbook to the corrupt country of Ukraine without this fight, joining Florida and Texas in defending our rights and traditional Western way of life. Did I get that right? Okay. Please understand, this is not an effort to tear you down. I'm not a journalist. This is not meant to be a gotcha. This is rather a sincere correspondence from your friends, neighbors, patrons, and community. Try to better understand each other and find what we're missing. Thank you for all you've done to our greater good, and thank you for taking the time to participate with Stand Up in Idaho. Well, you're welcome. Is there a question here? Did I miss the question?
Okay, so
Is there a question in there?
yeah, there was down here. Why?
Oh,
Looks like you might have
okay.
pumped yours off.
60.
Why do you?
Yeah, it's not on my list. Why do you support and donate to candidates like our current governor that, in my opinion, do not follow the Republican platform, act like rhinos, actively participate in the shutdown of this state, a nearly 2-year state of emergency declaration, and are unprepared or unwilling to defend Idaho against socialist policies and the speed of swiftness in which the progressives are proposing implementing them? Why do I support
Yeah, why would you?
the governor? I'll just say this. Better than the alternative. That's what I'd say. That's why we support the governor. Do you, if you want, maybe we find better than Governor Little. We got to find him and put him up as a candidate. Otherwise, we got to choose the best one. I feel like we've chose the best one. Do you or your companies get kickbacks or perks or other public-private partnership benefits from these candidates? Are you being coerced in any way to lend your support? No, we don't get kickbacks. We don't have private benefits. If we give a lot of support to somebody, they're off limits to us. We don't. We don't even want the appearance of any of that. Thank you. I'm on 62, Doug. We're almost there. 2 pages left, looks like.
Yeah, 60 is what I would have here. Could you mention this about liberal
16.
and that?
I don't know. I'm missing. Yeah, I better use yours.
Let me see. What's this number?
Oh, there it is. Thank you. Were you or any of your organizations you fund part of the smear campaign towards some of the conservative candidates for the May primary? If so, why would you attack any person of your own party? Good question. Do you feel it's unfair for big money to try to sway any election to a twisted truth? Okay. I don't believe we were any part of a smear campaign. I'm not aware of a smear campaign. We didn't see one. We didn't only support that. We gave to the Idaho Liberty PAC. I don't know if that's the PAC that you're concerned about. We gave to that PAC. We weren't involved in what the wording of it was. I don't know what they did. That's the PAC. So if that's the PAC you're talking about, we gave to that PAC. I hope they didn't get involved with the smear campaign. Question number 62. Gregory Graff is often critical of the liberty conservative wing of the political spectrum. Is Gregory Graff employed by Frank VanderSloot in any political capacity? The answer is no. Has Gregory Graff ever been employed by Frank VanderSloot in any political capacity? Gregory Graff was an employee, was a Melaleuca employee. He's in charge of our search engine optimization, which is basically what elevates when somebody does a search on Melaleuca. Is it the first thing or the second thing, or is it on the second? Does it come up first? We want it to come up first. So there's ways to do links and stuff. He's very good at that. We hired him to do that. He did a very good job for us for many years. He got involved politically. His views, although conservative, were in his approach was along some of the lines that I'm concerned about, attacking others, and we talked to him about that. And some people misconstrued what he was doing because they knew he worked for us with what we were doing. And they started saying, well, this is, Melaleuca doing these things. And we said, we don't want any part of that. We talked to Greg. We told him he couldn't do that. Well, we put him under strict guidelines. We give him written instructions. Thou shalt not. It was very hard for him. I think for the most part, for a while, he obeyed that ruling. And then he felt it was too constrictive, and I agree with him. Nobody should be restricted from doing what, under their own deal. So he left our employment on his own accord. We did not fire him. We still use the firm that he works for to do some advice for us, not a lot. But he's very good at what he does. His being involved in those things is what caused us huge problems. And anyway, he no longer works for us. We do employ his employer or have a contract. They give us some advice, not in any political capacity whatsoever. And he's never been involved with the political capacity. In the old days, when I didn't know how to post something, he showed me how to post it on Facebook before I knew how. Now I do my own stuff, which isn't like once every 6 months. Do you have disdain for liberty groups or the John Birch? I post more often than every 6 months on my Facebook page, but not very often. Do you have disdain for liberty groups like the John Birch Society? Would you publicly endorse any of them? I don't have any disdain. I don't know much about the John Birch Society. My understanding, they get pretty far out there in some of those issues. Would I endorse any of them? I'd have to know more. Don't know. Were you in any way responsible for Sheriff Ozzie coming to speak with the GOP lambasting the liberty movement? No. My understanding is it was Region 7. There it is. No. We didn't have any part with bringing him here. Region 7 did that. They did it in our building, which we ran our building. You want to rent our building? Well, it's nicer than the Shilo, Doug. Nicer than the Shilo.
I don't think I can afford it.
So no, the answer is no. They rented our space, but we didn't help them. Do you have issues with Brian Smith, Ron Nate, Chad Christensen, or Kerry Hanks? What and where are they? Pretty much covered it. Don't know Kerry Hanks. So no issues with Kerry. Have you had? You've said that Brian Smith pursues an unscrupulous and moral path towards in collection of debts from people which have refused to pay, even though they don't know and they owe the money. Don't you believe people should work with service providers to pay their debts without forcing the providers into legal action to collect them? Pretty much covered that. If you are not a neocon, Trotskyite, Marxist, Rhino, why do you, like Brad Little and other neocons, spend more time around them than you do like constitutionalists who are trying to save this country. I don't spend any time with Brad Little. And so I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. I don't mean to dodge it. I don't spend any time around Brad Little. Love to spend time around whoever wrote this. Come spend time with me. I'll spend time with you. Why do you support Brad Little when Little doesn't follow the Idaho Constitution? I already answered that. Well, why did you donate to Mitt Romney? Been asking that myself. Are you glad you backed Mitt Romney for president? And I'm never glad if we put in $1 million behind somebody and they didn't win. I'm not glad we did it. I think we'd been better off if Romney would have won. However, better off than what Obama did to us. Would you support him again if he ran against Trump? No, I wouldn't. The Declaration of Independence states, and then they cite the Declaration of Independence. Do you agree with the Declaration of Independence? Yes, absolutely. Do you agree with the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights? Yes, I do. Do you support and defend the Constitution? Yes, I do. What parts of the Constitution, Bill of Rights, if any, do you not agree with? Don't know of any that I don't agree with. Do you support the original intent or living, breathing version of the Constitution? Original intent. Have you ever taken the oath to uphold the Constitution? If not, would you be willing to take it right here, right now? I've talked to Doug about. I don't think this is the forum, and I'm not going to participate in the theater of that. But I'd want to read which oath to uphold the Constitution you're talking about. They do say it here. I'm happy to consider that at some other event. If people think that I should, I'll consider it. I want to read it and understand it. Think not necessarily a question. We're right there. Two left. This is really quick. Not necessarily a question, but I would like to ask Frank if he has ever considered entering the newspaper market in Idaho Falls. The APG owns Post Register in Idaho Falls, plus a majority newspaper in Idaho. The Post Register evolved into nothing more than another spokesman for all causes of the Democratic Party and has lost all journalistic integrity. I'm aware of the media is trending more and more electronic forms of distribution, but the community newspaper still has value when true journalism is practiced. Unfortunately, we don't have that in Idaho Falls surrounding communities who are fed garbage by APG-owned newspapers. Actually, we did at one time look into that. We looked into purchasing the Statesman in Boise. We had negotiations started to do that. This was a while back in the Post Register. If you might recall those days, we were so upset with the Post Register for what they were doing back then. We bought a full page ad. Once a month we ran it. It was called the community page in the Post Register. I had a contract with them that they could not change anything. The first time they run it, and they started attacking LDS people. It went too far, and we said, okay, enough of this. We exposed them. I got a phone call saying from Roger Plouffe said, we're not going to run your ad. And I said, you got to run it. I got a contract here. And by the way, Roger and I over the years became good friends, and I think that he started treating us more fairly and gained some respect. But back then, if you think the liberal paper is liberal now, you should, go back and they have made tons of improvement. They are not like way off the chart. I have to admit, I don't read the Post Register. So I can't represent what's in there. I don't read it much. We have a subscription. I can't tell you the last time I read it. I don't know. I think newspapers are not the way that people are getting their news today. I would not be interested in buying a newspaper. I think they're a dying breed, unfortunately. I think it's important to have good press. And the last question, this is it. What kinds of questions does Frank have for us? None today, none tonight. Thank you for letting me talk to you. Thanks for staying. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Well, I told you, you know, there all sorts of questions. And Frank, thank you very, very much. And thank everybody here. Really like to invite everybody, and it's like we started out this saying, you know, we need to understand all sides of the story. And tonight we didn't take any questions from the audience, and I'm sure there's some things that people may or may not have agreed with what Frank says, and so we're going to have a rebuttal next week, and everybody's invited to come. And Frank, actually, if you could come, it'd be great too. I don't know what your schedule is, but I think it's really important for us all to, first off, get to know each other. You know, and I think like Frank says, and you hear Frank, you know, you start off with a preconceived notion of something, and once you start learning and talking to your neighbor and the people next to you, you know what, it may change. And so for us to be able to work together as a society and a civilization and to keep a free world, we need to start the conversation and keep the conversation going. So with that, you know, I'd really like to invite everybody to come next week. If you put your email address down there, you know, I'll try to send you in, if somebody's going to rebut or not on it. I'll put it on my calendar if somebody has done. You can look it up, standupforidaho.org. But again, this is really important that we have this kind of dialogue. And it's really important that we start working together, that we start, you know, working for that lofty objective that I think most of us have as conservatives. You know, we agree on 80 to 90% of the things, and we can't let that 10 to 20% destroy us, because that it will if we just let that happen. So I appreciate everybody. And I was going to make, Nick, do you want to make a comment? Is it okay to let people know? The Republican Party, the Bonneville County Republican Central Committee actually meets here on the second Thursdays of every month. And it is open to the public. It is a business session and whatnot, but you're invited to come and listen to it if you'd like. And so just hear and see who they are. A lot of them are just normal people like you and I, and trying to do what they feel the best thing that they can do for the county, the state, and the country. With that, everybody, thank you very, very much. I appreciate it, and I hope to see you in a week and do that. Thank you again.